How's going, guys? Welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see what if Naruto awakened of an ancient prophecy and built harem in One Piece Part 1. Huge shout out to Shady Sean 21 for this story. If you want to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Elemental Nations. In the village hidden in the leaves, or more commonly known as Konohakagure, it was a day just like any other. A dark-haired individual with his hair tied up into a spiky ponytail, who was also sporting his usual lazy expression, was walking towards the door to the Hokage's office. He soon arrives at the door and knocks first before he starts to open the door. "Hey Naruto, I have some forms I need you to sign." He looks around to see a desk with papers stacked up to the ceiling, and toads of all things were stamping some forms, and others seemed to be organizing the room. Okay, just where did he take off to this time? I mean, seriously. The largest toad currently in the room was wearing an orange vest covering his reddish body covered in darker red swirl patterns. He was also wearing an orange beret on his head, was currently sitting in the seat which is supposed to be meant for the Hokage. Looks up to see him standing there. The toad lets out a loud croak before speaking. "Oh, you must be Shikamaru-san. I'm Gameta. Naruto-sama asked us to take care of a few things for him since Ajiji-sama had another prophecy about him." Croak, as to what it's about, I have no clue. I'm just happy to be of some help to Naruto-sama. Gamete shrugs his shoulders as he explains the situation to Shikamaru. Shikamaru lets out a groan as he shakes his head in disbelief. Man, this is such a drag. He looks around the room again before returning his gaze to Gamete. "I don't suppose you have any idea when he'll be back, do you?" Naruto-sama said that he should be back sometime this afternoon. "If you like, I can send one of our tracker toads to find you once he returns." Shikamaru smiles a little as he nods in acceptance to the offer. "That sounds good, thanks." After a short pause, he looks at the beret on the toad's head. "I'm sorry, but I have to ask, what's with the—" "I'd appreciate it if you didn't ask about my beret," the toad interrupts him. "I have my own style, so drop it." "Yeah, alright, I won't ask again," says Shikamaru, "though that's gonna be bugging me for a while now," he thinks to himself as he leaves the room. Eventually, he runs into a pink-haired Kunoichi. "Oh hey Shikamaru, did you let Naruto know about the preparations for the yearly cage meeting?" Shikamaru grins as he knows how this conversation will end. Most likely will end in a very bruised and beaten up Naruto. "Oh, Naruto is so going to hate me for this. Oh well, it's what he gets for taking off like he just did." The Kunoichi tilts her head to the side in confusion. "Oh, sorry about that, Sakura, and to answer your question, well, let's just say that he's not here at the moment. He seems to have taken off again and left a bunch of toads to do his paperwork for him." The moment he finishes speaking, he jumps out a window in an effort to avoid becoming collateral damage. Sakura stands there for a short time as her mind attempts to process what Shikamaru just told her. With every second that goes by, another tick mark forms on her forehead, as well as her fists clenching tighter and tighter in anger. Oh, he is so going to regret taking off like this. She walks down the hall as she begins thinking about just how brutally she's going to beat on him when he finally returns. Mount Mayaboku. Sitting in a large room was a gigantic elderly toad who was brown in color, except for his white belly was sitting upon his oversized throne. Two much smaller but also elderly toads were sitting on either side, but in front of him watched as a man with blonde hair who was wearing an orange jumpsuit and a short-sleeved red coat with a black flame pattern along the hemline was walking to a platform out in the middle of the room. The blonde grins as he raises his right hand, putting his index and middle fingers together, and gives the toads a friendly salute. "Yo, how have you all been? It's been quite a while since the last time we were all here like this." The oversized toad looks down at the blonde man. "Why, yes, it was been quite a while. Who are you again?" With that sentence, everyone else in the room falls over in surprise. The female toad known as Shima, also referred to as Ma, loudly groans before she yells out, "Geez, you old geezer, this is seriously getting old. As you should very well know, the one standing before you is Naruto Uzumaki. You know, the child of prophecy. I mean, you're the one who called him out here." Naruto slowly gets up and proceeds to brush himself off. "It's okay, Ma, don't worry about it. I'm getting used to it," he says to the female toad before looking back up to the Gargantuan toad. "And if I'm right in my timing, he should figure out who I am in 3, 2, 1, he quietly says to himself. "Ah yes, Naruto, I have seen a vision involving you. One where you seems to be sailing the seas, but for why I do not know. I also saw you reuniting with an old friend whose power resides in his eyes." The great toad sage begins but is cut off by Naruto. "Wait, what? Are you talking about Sasuke? During the final battle against Madara, wasn't Sasuke sent to another dimension by Obito? I do remember him shoving me out of the way at the last moment to protect me from his power, which allowed me to take advantage of Obito's confusion and take him out." Naruto exclaims in disbelief. "Now you're telling me that he may be alive out there somewhere." The toad sage looks at Naruto curiously. Ah yes, I remember him now. Yes, I'm pretty sure he's the lad in the vision, however something seems off about him, like a part of him is missing, although I'm unsure if it's either physical or mental. Naruto looks to the ground as he takes all this information in. Sasuke, I hope you're safe wherever you are. The other smaller toad, known as Fukasaku, or is more commonly referred to as Pa by the other toads, gives Naruto some time to take everything in before saying anything. Naruto Bazu, it would appear that you now have another reason to explore the world. The blonde looks up with a puzzled look on his face as he looks at Fukasaku. Huh, what do you mean by that, Pa? He asks. Fukasaku shakes his head a little. Think about it, Naruto Bazu. Jiraiya Bazu wanted to bring peace to the world and he left that quest to you. Well, the elemental nations have now entered a time of peace. However, this land is actually just a tiny part of the wide world out there. So if you truly wish to bring peace to the world, you will sadly have to leave the land of your birth and head out to sea. I'm sorry about this, but it is your choice to make. But remember, you're never alone. You can always summon any of the toads here in Mayaboku to assist you at any time. Naruto allows himself a few moments of personal reflection before a big and bright grin spreads across his face. Thank for the quite pep talk, Pa, I needed that. And you're right, I'm never truly alone. Well, I guess I should probably head back home. I have to attend the yearly cage meeting in the new port town Nanobi. I better let them all know what's going on. Later, guys. He then turns around and suddenly vanishes from sight in a flash of yellow light. My word, isn't that his father's signature jutsu, the Hiraishin jutsu? Well, I'm glad to see that even though in these times of peace he's still trying to improve himself. Shima says in astonishment. Hawkage Tower in Konohakagure. Naruto appears in a flash of yellow light just in front of his desk. Unfortunately, his sudden appearance scared the smaller toads senseless, causing them to dive under the deck or anything else they could find. He looks around at the small toads, fearfully poking their noses out from under cover, however they aren't quite relieved about Nato's sudden appearance. He looks around with a puzzled look on his face as he crouches down to ask one of the little toads a question. Do any of you happen to know where Gamady is? I kinda left him in charge of paperwork duty while I was gone, Naruto asks. The sound of a chair moving as well as the creak of pressure being applied to the desk. Naruto turns his head to the source of the sound. A large and shaking arm comes into sight from behind the desk. Is that you, Naruto-sama? Asks the owner of the shaking arm, which so happens to be Gamady. Are you alright, Gamady? Did something happen since I left? Naruto asks. Gamady slowly looks around to see if the coast is clear before responding. Why, you could say that, if that's what you call a pink typhoon that came in here and attacked us while demanding for your location. Also sorry, but I'm not gonna be able to help you out anytime soon after today. He slowly walks towards the window before screaming. Oh my god, she's coming back, everyone retreat. And with that being said, every single toad in the room disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving Naruto in the room alone trying to figure out what happened. Did they mean by a pink typhoon? He quietly asks himself. Wait, they did say it was pink and that it was a she. I wonder what they meant. Thinks to himself for a moment before he slowly realizes what's coming. Asterisk, oh my god, Sakura Chan's coming. He races to the door, which he quickly opens just to find said person standing on the other side, giving him a warm yet terrifying smile. Why, if it isn't Hokage Dono? It's so nice of you to face your punishment like a man. Okay, this is not good. I have two choices here. One, just stand here and let Sakura take out her frustration now to get it over with, or, the preferred option 2, run like hell and try to explain to her as I run for my life. However, when she does catch me in that scenario, she is going to beat me even more. Is what goes through Naruto's mind in about 2 seconds. He attempts to weigh the odds of his survival on the choices, but realizes he doesn't have much more time to reach a decision as he notices her right hand form into a fist. Fuck it, is all he says before he focuses as much chakra as possible in his legs and releases it all at once, quickly repelling him in the opposite direction of Sakura, forcing him through the window behind his desk. Aiya Sakura Chan, please let me explain. He then spends the rest of the afternoon and some of the night engaged in a deadly game of cat and mouse throughout the village. Those in the village who were supposed to adore and respect him spent the entire time laughing their ungrateful asses off as he dashed around trying to evade Sakura's attacks. Eventually, after a long chase, Sakura eventually catches his red coat and proceeds to beat the living shit out of him. After the beat down given to him, he is finally able to explain the situation and calm her down. You know, Naruto, if you had just told me from the start, this entire chase wouldn't have even happened. She explains as she leads a bruised Naruto back to his parents' estate. He glances over to her and shakes his head a little. Sakura-chan, you know very well you have and probably will never give me the chance to explain before you pummel me. She tilts her head upwards as she ponders this. You know you may be right about that. Wow, it's hard to believe you can actually be right, she says as she childishly sticks her tongue out at him. Well, I need to get some rest. I have that cage meeting to attend in the morning, then everything is probably going to change. Naruto says. I guess so is all Sakura says. Well, I can still bring 2 bodyguards to this thing. Shikamaru's the obvious choice. Now who should be the second? He thinks to himself. It was early in the morning, and the sun was just starting to raise off in the horizon as Naruto and his 2 companions were just reaching the outskirts of the city the 5 great nations built together. The city known to all as Nanobi. Geez, Naruto, did you have to wake us up so early? I mean, the meeting won't even start until the afternoon. Man, this is such a drag, says Naruto's first companion Shikamaru. The second companion, however, just held her hands behind her head as she casually walked by Naruto's side. Oh, come on, Shikamaru. At least this way we could take our time and not rush, not like Guy-sensei and Lee always insist on doing, she says with an exasperated sigh. Damn them and their springtime of youth. Naruto shakes his head as he recalls how said men usually act. Just be happy that Guy-sensei never forced you to wear that skin-tight green jumpsuit. Then again, it could look good on you 10-10-chan, he says with a cheeky grin. She stops as if frozen in place as the image of her wearing it crosses her mind. Within moments she glares at Naruto. Don't even joke about something like that, cause it will never ever happen. He just raises a hand and waves back at her. Don't worry, I was only joking. Besides, I know better than to interfere with a woman's wardrobe, especially a woman armed with many sharp pointy things she could then use to impale me. Tenten crosses her arms as she pouts. Shikamaru laughs a little. Yeah, I know what you mean, Naruto. Women can be scary when they want to be. Their blonde-haired Hawkage turns his head back as they continue to make their way into town. By the way, Shikamaru, I've been meaning to ask about how things have been going between you and Temari. Gaara has been pestering me with asking when the 2 of you are finally going to get hitched. Now that the subject had been changed, Tenten smiles brightly as she hurries to catch up with her companions since she doesn't want to miss this conversation. The dark-haired man shrugs a little. Not too sure, to be honest. I already bought the ring, however I've been racking my brain trying to find the right time to ask her. Naruto smiles at his friend. Don't worry, Shikamaru, knowing you I'm sure that you'll find the right time to ask her. I'll just tell Gaara something to get him off my back. He returns his gaze to the road ahead of them. Knowing Temari, the time may come closer than you know, Shikamaru. Well, anyways, let's hurry up and get to the city. I want some time to check out the harbor, says Naruto, which causes his companions to raise an eyebrow in confusion, but they soon shrug it off and the group quickens their pace. It doesn't take them long to arrive at the center of the city just a few blocks away from the meeting place. Naruto proceeds to walk towards the shipyard in the opposite direction but is stopped by Shikamaru. Hey Naruto, I know you want to check out the harbor, but it would be better if we just went to the meeting place first, then explore afterwards. Naruto turns around. Yeah, that is a good idea, but I have a better one. Tenten points a finger at Naruto. This idea better not involve your damn shadow clones, she threatens. The blonde just rolls his eyes as he reaches into his kunai pouch. No, it doesn't involve my shadow clones. It's a different jutsu that I've spent the last couple of years perfecting. However, I've only got a bit over half of it mastered. Both his friends tilt their heads as they try to figure out what Naruto means. He then pulls out a trident-shaped kunai with a slightly larger handle and tosses it over to Shikamaru, who easily catches it. The 2 of them look at the strangely shaped weapon and try to discern its purpose. Suddenly Tenten's eyes open wide as she realizes what it is. Oh my god, Naruto, is that what I think it is? She yells out in surprise and is replied with a grin. Yep, sure is. This is one of my dad's Hiraishin kunai. I now know how to use the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. However, I require the kunai to use it. I'm not quite at my dad's level in using it yet. Shikamaru looks at the blade before putting it away in his holster. So when it comes time for the meeting to start, you just want me to throw it, then you will just teleport right to my side. Is that about right? Naruto nods, letting him know that he's quite right. Heh, convenient. I guess I'll go on ahead and take a nap until the others get there. Have fun, Naruto. Shikamaru then starts walking off to the meeting place. The brown-haired Kunoichi hurries to Naruto's side and looks directly at his kunai holster. After several moments of her staring intently at it, he just sighs and takes one out for her to examine. There you go, Tenten. Just be gentle with it and try not to stick it anywhere I wouldn't, he says as he gives her a small wink. Naruto then dashes off in the direction of the harbor to see the kinds of ships were there. Doesn't take him very long at all to find the harbor with the massive galleons and other ships. He begins to walk around examining them, trying to find one that would be suitable for his new upcoming journey. Naruto soon comes to a stop before a fair-sized vessel that catches his attention. This ship seems pretty cool, but I wonder what it looks like inside, he says to himself. But just as he's about to jump onto the ship, someone places their hand on his shoulder. Excuse me, young man. That is a warship and not a playground, so I'm going to have to ask you to leave, says a large, bald-headed man sporting a small black goatee and a muscular build, who is wearing a white uniform. The man is abruptly cut off as a kunai is placed over his exposed throat. "Just what the hell is going on?" he exclaims in fright. "That's what I should be asking," says the armed kunoichi currently standing behind him. "So take your hand off Naruto-kun before I'm forced to kill you." The muscular man releases his hand, and as soon as he does so, the kunai is removed from his throat. "There, I let go of the punk. Now give me one damn good reason why we shouldn't arrest you too for this blatant assault." Tenten glares at him. "Naruto-kun isn't a punk, he's the current Hokage, one of the 5 leaders of the elemental nations, so you should show the proper respect." Beads of sweat begin to run down his face as he realizes what trouble he almost caused. He then snaps to attention and salutes Naruto and Tenten. "I'm very sorry for my actions. I had no idea that you were one of the leaders of this nation." Just as Naruto is about to reply, he notices a tall man wearing a white pair of pants as well as a matching vest over top a long-sleeved purple shirt, with a long overcoat resting on his shoulders, currently walking towards them. Once the man reaches a close enough distance, does Naruto see that he has a green and purple-colored sleep mask resting over his forehead. He has a head of dark hair. The man looks from Naruto to Tenten. "May I ask why you were threatening one of my men with that knife, young lady?" asks the tall man, who receives a glare from her. The Marine who was just mentioned quickly saluted the tall man. "Admiral Aokiji, I'm sorry if the incident disturbed you. This incident is entirely my fault. I was currently apologizing before you got here, sir." The Admiral looks back towards the pair in surprise. "I apologize if my subordinate caused any offense towards either of you. Also, if I may ask, do either of you know the way to the town hall? Our government sent us to this land to make a request to the leaders." Naruto raises an eyebrow in wonder. "It just so happens that there will be a meeting between the 5 leaders of our country going on this afternoon." Aokiji puts his hands in his pockets. "That is certainly a good thing. This will save a great deal of time. By the way, ever since we arrived here, I've been hearing talk about a war that happened 4 or 5 years ago in this land. Something about a force of hundreds of thousands of shinobi facing off against an army of immortals and some gigantic monster. Is that true?" He looks directly at Naruto with a questioning look on his face. After a brief pause, Naruto replies, Yeah, it's true. Now our nation has finally achieved this time of peace which we are all grateful for, just as the rest of the world should be." Suddenly, Naruto feels this strange tugging feeling that he has come to associate with someone throwing one of his Hiraishin kunai. "Sorry to cut this talk short, but there's somewhere I have to be. But you'll find the town hall towards the center of the city. It's the tallest building there, you can't miss it." He then places a hand on Tenten's shoulder and transports the 2 of them away, leaving the Admiral and the Marine shocked at their sudden disappearance. "Well, that was interesting. I wonder what kind of devil fruit he ate." Aokiji looks at his subordinate. "Do you mind going to get Sakazuki for me? Sengoku wanted us both to meet with the leaders." The Marine salutes, then heads off to find the other Admiral. "This is going to be a long day. I do hope Sakazuki will be able to keep his temper in check, especially since we don't know the capabilities of these shinobi." Aokiji thinks to himself as he waits for Sakazuki to join up with him. Town's meeting room. In a brilliant flash of light, Naruto and Tenten appear in front of the 4 other Kage and their bodyguards. "Yo, I hope we're not late," Naruto says to everyone in the room. "This is quite a surprise, Uzumaki. I didn't think that Shikamaru was telling the truth about you mastering that jutsu," says a muscular, dark-skinned man with white hair who only hand one arm. "Yep, I sure did, although it was freaking hard to do so," Naruto says with a grin as he walks to what he believes to be his seat. "Well, why don't we get started on this meeting, since it seems that we may have a few guests soon." With that being said, the other Kage look at the blonde in confusion, but just wave it off since they know they'll find out soon enough. About an hour into the meeting, someone knocks on the door. The Mizukage Mei tells them to enter since she was sitting closest to the door. The door then opens and a messenger walks through. After giving a quick bow to the group, he announces his purpose for disturbing the meeting. "Lord Cages, there seem to be a group in the lobby who request a meeting with you. They say it's of the utmost importance." "Called it," Naruto says as he reclines in his chair and placing his feet on the desk. The other Kage roll their eyes at Naruto's comment and keep their eyes on the messenger. "Well, since the meeting for today is practically over, you might as well send them in. However, they won't have long," says the Raikage to the messenger to bows again before hurrying off to bring the group in. "Naruto, who are these people who wish to speak with us?" asks the red-haired Kazekage. "I don't know that much about them honestly, just that they call themselves Marines," Naruto states. The other Kage sit there wondering about the group coming to see them. After a wait of several minutes, the group consisting of about a dozen men and women all dressed in the same white uniform come in surrounding a pair of tall individuals. The 2 tallest Marines walk forward and sit in the 2 spots offered to them. "Thank you for agreeing to meet us under such short notice," You may call me Aokiji and this is my associate Akinu. We both hold the position of admiral for the world government. The reason we've come here today is to invite your country to join up with the 170 other allied nations of the world government. Aokiji says in a respectful tone as Akinu sits there with his arms crossed. The cage sit there as they take in everything that was just said to them. The Reikage is the first of the cage to speak. Our land has finally entered a time of peace where we are all united, and what happens if we refuse to join up with your so-called world government? Would your forces choose to attack us in response? He asks with a stern look on his face. Aokiji raises his hands in a non-threatening manner and tries to reassure them. No, we have no intention of doing that. The other admiral who is wearing a red suit interrupts him by slamming a hand on the table. Enough of that, Kyuzin. You people have no reason to refuse to join forces with us. Within a moment of Akinu smashing into the table, about 10 shinobi appear in front of their respecting cage, each and every one of them in a battle stance. It would seem that you people are simply barbari. Akinu starts but finds that he is unable to move his body. He looks over to Aokiji to find that he seems to be having a similar problem. Just what the hell have you done to us? He savagely asks. Several dark tendrils surround both admirals. You're currently under my shadow possession jutsu. As you can see, it makes an opponent immobile. If you continue to make yourselves a threat, then we will be forced to treat you as such. Shikamaru threatens them. Both the admirals as well as the other marines reluctantly agree and are then released from the jutsu. However, the bodyguards now move to stand just behind their leaders. That is one strange ability you possess, young man. May I ask what kind of devil fruit you ate to give you such a skill? Aokiji curiously asks the black-haired young man standing behind the blonde he met earlier, whose pupils seem to have changed as well as gaining a strange orange tint around his eyes. Just what is a devil fruit? Asked most of the shinobi in the room at the same time. Just how dangerous are these shinobi? Aokiji thinks to himself as a bead of sweat drops. He turns his gaze back to the marines standing behind him who seem to be shaking. Can one of you bring me a few transponder snails? I believe I asked some of the marines standing outside to bring some with us to the meeting. A couple marines quickly salute and race out of the room, happy to be away from those dangerous shinobi. Within a couple minutes, the marines return with a bag. Aokiji reaches into the bag and pulls out a large snail with a microphone attached to it and sets it on the table. This is what we call a transponder snail. It's used to talk to people from different places, such as across the vast sea. I'd like to give these to you, so if your country chooses to ally with the world government, you can just send us a message with it. He then proceeds to write down a variety of different numbers. And this is a list of numbers you need to get a hold of the government as well as myself. He then stands up and motions to the others that it's time to leave. After Akinu and the other marines leave, Aokiji stops at the door and looks back at the cage. I deeply apologize for Sakazuki's actions. I hope that his actions haven't ruined the chance for your country to join with the world government. He gives them a small bow before leaving. Once he leaves the cage, start a discussion on what to do about the current situation. So what should we do? Should we join their world government or do what we can to stay out of it? The Mizukage asks of the others. Gaara turns his gaze to her, but we know next to nothing about them. It wouldn't be wise to do anything rash. Agreed, so just how should we deal with this? Asks the Reikage. Naruto readjusts his chair so he's back in a normal sitting position. The solution is more simple than you think, he comments, which confuses everyone else in the room. Just what do you mean by that, Naruto? Gaara asks. It's simple. We send someone to the open seas and find out as much about the workings of the world government as possible. And as for who would go, I volunteer. Tenten strikes Naruto over the head. What the hell, Naruto? You're the Hokage, you have an important job to do and can't just leave. Everyone in the room nods in agreement. I know how it sounds, but I have to be the one, Naruto says. He then proceeds to explain about the new prophecy as well as his reasons for leaving. But who will take over as Hokage in your absence, and when would you be leaving? Mei asks. I plan on leaving within a week, and as for who would take over, I plan on giving my position to one Shikamaru Nara, Naruto states. What the hell, Naruto? There's no way I'm going to become Hokage, Shikamaru says as he completely refuses. The other Kage look at one another, not saying anything but nodding from to one another. The Tsuchikage Anoki looks at Shikamaru. I think we can all agree that you're a good choice for the position. You're both strong as well as quite cunning. You're a perfect fit for the job. Shikamaru looks around the room as everyone nods in agreement before he lowers his head in reluctant acceptance. He then whispers in Naruto's ear. I assume this is because you know I told Sakura that you were gone. Naruto nods with a smile. Partially, but I know you're a good pick for the job. Besides, Konohamaru isn't ready for the job yet. Naruto then stands up and prepares to leave. Well, I have a bunch of stuff to do before I leave, such as gathering supplies like weapons and food, so I bid you all farewell. I'll return here before I leave in a week. Bye. He then leaves the room with Shikamaru and Tenten hot on his heels. The week goes by in a flash, and the day of Naruto's departure has finally arrived. Shinobi from all over the country have come to see their hero off, and everyone is wondering the same things. Just who will be able to go with him as well as when he will return. The wait is soon over as they see their blonde hero making his way to the harbor. He is surrounded by many of his close friends, however only Naruto himself and one other seem to have any luggage with them. "Wow, there's so many of you to see me off," Naruto exclaims happily as he comes to a stop before the 5 current cage. "Of course there is Naruto. To everyone here, you are a hero. You are also my greatest friend Naruto. We will all miss you," Gaara says as he holds a hand out. Naruto does the same and shake hands with his friend. The Raikage stands there and looks at the young man who had bowed down to him to protect a friend so many years ago whom was now a man. "Just don't do anything stupid and get yourself killed out there, kid." With a quick laugh, Naruto replies, "You should know the answer to that already." He then leaps up onto the deck of the ship and looks out over the crowd. "In the past I said I wouldn't die until I became Hokage. Even though I've become Hokage, I have a new vow to make. A request from my sensei, the late and great Jiraiya, also known as the Pervy Sage." He stops talking for the moment and waits for the laughter to die out before continuing. "The request he made of me was to bring peace to the world, and I refuse to die before the time comes that the entire world shares the peace our land has gained. From what I've heard, the world outside this land is incredibly vast, so this mission will take a great many years, but no matter what I will succeed. So I want everyone here to enjoy life and continue to protect one another." A young lady sighs as she jumps up to join him. "Nice speech, Naruto-kun. Now just how is it we're going to run this ship with just the 2 of us?" "Easy." Multi-shadow clone jutsu. A couple dozen Naruto clones appear across the deck and take up various positions. A couple of the clones raise the anchor and others raise the sail. "Now we're off," all the Narutos simultaneously yell out. After some time of sailing, they eventually lose sight of the elemental nations and are out on the open ocean. The real Naruto was standing at the helm keeping the wheel steady. Eventually Tenten walks up from below deck to stand beside him. "So Naruto-kun, just where is it we're going to first?" A couple minutes go by in silence, so she looks at him with a questioning look on her face. She then notices that he's still staring straight ahead and is sweating profusely. Tenten then sighs as she asks him another question. "Let me guess, you have no idea, do you?" She waits for him to nod before she opens a scroll which summons up a metal staff which is then used to knock Naruto off his feet. She holds the tip to his throat. "I can't believe I got talked into going out to sea with you. Sometimes I actually forget what an idiot you are, Naruto-kun." He laughs weakly. "Sorry about that, but I did ask the guys who were stocking the ship to leave a few maps down below. I thought that they had some, but it seems they don't. I figured that we can just buy a bunch of maps and charts from the first island we come to." She rolls her eyes as she removes the staff and reseals it. "That is a good idea, I guess. Not that we have a choice at this point. Also, I was wondering, why did you want me to come with you?" Naruto gets up and straightens his sage coat. "It's because we're on the open sea. Since you're so good with weapons, I figured that you'd be able to take advantage of the cannons so we could defend ourselves at a distance. Cause I don't feel like going into my tailed beast mode and using the Baijudama. And before you ask, it's because I don't want to use Kurama's power unless I have to, as well as the fact of turning into a giant 9-tailed fox will probably scare the shit out of innocent people." Tenten's sweat drops as she imagines how terrified people would probably get at the sight of it. "Yeah, I see your point." She then runs up the mast and jumps into the crow's nest. "I'm just going to stay up here for the time being. I'll let you know if I see another ship or island." "Alright, sounds good," Naruto yells out to her. After an entire day of sailing, the sun finally sets. Naruto's clones take down the sails and lower the anchor since they knew that it was dangerous to sail at night. Tenten jumps down from the crow's nest and lands on the deck. She leans back as she stretches. "So who'll take the first watch, Naruto-kun?" she asks. "My clones will for tonight. Now I guess it's time to figure out who gets which room," Naruto says with a small but tired laugh. "It's probably better if we figure this out now than later." Tenten looks up in the sky as she thinks about it. If I'm going to be in charge of the cannons and other weapons, I want a room closer to the armory. Also another room so I can store my seals, and another for any rare weapons I find, and another." Naruto's sweat drops as he listens to her go on before he's forced to interrupt her. "One sec, Tenten. You know very well that you don't need that many rooms. I agree about you getting a room closer to the armory, however we each only get one room. We can share a room for storing and making seals, all right. Besides, I'm sure we will find other people who want to help us, so they will need room for their stuff as well." He explains to her, which she reluctantly agrees. They then proceed to go to their respective rooms and don't come out until dawn the next day. A couple of days go by without them seeing either another ship or an island. On the fourth day, a massive storm hits, making travel for them impossible since every one of Naruto's clones kept sliding into one another, is forcibly dispelling one another. They eventually choose to just drop anchor and try and wait out the storm. The storm lasts throughout the day and continues until late into the night. They both decide to just go to bed and clean up whatever mess there is in the morning. The sun was just starting to rise as Naruto steps out into the open air and takes in a deep breath. Guess this is a feeling I've still gotta get used to, the smell of the open ocean. Naruto looks around to make sure there was no damage to the ship. Might as well let Ten-Ten-chan rest a little longer before we head out in an hour or so. Suddenly, the faint sound of someone screaming for help fills the air. Naruto races to the crow's nest to allow him a better view. He notices the form of someone desperately clinging to a chunk of driftwood. I wonder what happened to that person. Whatever the reason, I better help, he thinks to himself before leaping off the ship and landing on the surface of the water. Naruto dashes off in the direction of the shipwrecked person. The person in question notices that the ship doesn't change direction and lowers her head as she seems to accept that she will die. I guess they can't hear me. Man, this sucks. What sucks? She suddenly looks up to see a blonde-haired man crouching down on the surface of the water looking her square in the eyes. She suddenly lets out a loud scream and lets go of her lifeline, the piece of driftwood. H. Naruto stands there a moment in disbelief as he tries to figure out what's going on. He realizes that she isn't surfacing. Shit, don't tell me she can't swim. He yells out before diving in after her. He swims downward as fast as he can until he reaches her body and is surprised to notice she isn't even moving, just sinking with her eyes wide open. He grabs her arm and races to the surface. When they reach the surface, he quickly goes back to standing on the surface, and he lifts her up and carries her bridal style as he makes his way back to the ship. But about halfway back, she seems to regain semi-consciousness. Her gaze drifts from the hands around her to the water just below her. After seeing that, she fully regains consciousness and lets out a scream and tries her best to get as far from the water as possible, which just so happened to be on top of Naruto's head. With her struggling, he stops walking and tries to calm her down, but she eventually worms her way on top of his head and shoulders. Do you have to sit there, miss? He questions the soaking wet brunette on top of him. Of course it is, I despise water, she yells out along with a hiss. She then looks around and only now realizes that the man she's sitting on was actually walking on the surface of the ocean. Whoa, what the hell? Just how are you walking on the water? Not really sure how to explain this, he simply replies with, because I'm a shinobi. I've been able to do this for years. Now hang on tight, but don't choke me. I'm going to hurry and get us back aboard my ship. He waits for her to lean over and grip onto him before he takes off at full speed towards the ship, all the while hearing her scream in terror in his ear. It wasn't until they reached the safety of the deck of the ship does she finally stop screaming and retract her nails from Naruto's shoulders. She slowly crawls down from Naruto and steps down on the deck, which she then proceeds to kiss the deck. The sound of someone stomping brings both Naruto's attention as well as the young lady towards the door, where Ten kicks open the door. What the hell is with all the noise this early in the morning, Naruto? I swear if this is supposed to be a joke, it's not funny, she yells but trails off as she notices the soaking wet girl on the deck. Okay, what's up with the soaking wet chick? Naruto shrugs. No idea. I noticed her clinging to a piece of driftwood out there and figured I better save her. Also, Ten-Chan. She slightly tilts her head in wonder as he looks away with a tint of red on his cheeks. Shouldn't you put something on? You could catch a cold being dressed like that. What do you mean by that, Naruto-kun? She asks before looking down and realizes that she's only wearing a pair matching red bra and panties. She covers up in horror and races back into the ship. Damn it, she screams as she runs back to her room. Well, I had no idea she wore those kind of undergarments, Naruto quietly says to himself as he tries to hid a grin. Just who are you guys? Asks the young dark-haired woman. Naruto points to himself. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, a shinobi from the elemental nations. The brown-haired girl you just saw is called Ten-Chan. She specializes in weapons. Well, it's nice to meet you, Naruto-san. I'm Lasana. Thanks for saving me, she says as she gives him a light bow to show her appreciation. It's no problem at all. Also, if you don't mind me asking, why are you out at sea if you can't swim? Not only that, why did you just sink and not even struggle? Naruto asks as he leads her inside so she can dry herself off. She looks down as he hands her a towel. It's because I ate a devil fruit when I was younger. Naruto goes to sit down in a nearby chair. Okay, just what exactly is a devil fruit? I've only heard about it once from some marine guy named Aokiji, but nothing more than that. Lasana cringes for a moment at the mention of the Marines but then begins to dry off. When someone eats a devil fruit, it grants them power in one form or another. However, it's also a curse. It makes us unable to ever swim again. We lose all power when submerged in the water, so we sink like an anchor, she explains. As she explains this, Ten walks into the room wearing her usual outfit, and she's carrying a change of clothes with her. Huh, so that's what it is. Also, here you go, some warm and dry clothes. And if you like, you could take a quick shower to rinse the seawater out of your hair, Ten says as she passes the clothes over to Lasana, who then thanks her. Lasana exits the room and heads in the direction Ten gave her. Ten then sits across from Naruto. Well, she seems nice, but I do feel kind of sorry for her, being unable to ever swim again and being out on the seas like this. It must be quite hard, she comments as she leans back in her chair. Yeah, I wonder what her story is. Oh, I wonder if she knows the way to the nearest island, Naruto says as he leans forward. That is a good point, we should probably ask her about that, Ten replies. They then hear a strange knocking noise coming from the deck. Ten gets up and walks towards the door. I'll see what's making the racket. She then heads out onto the deck and shuts the door, leaving Naruto alone. Naruto then gets up and walks over to the pantry in the kitchen to get a cup of what he believes to be the world's best dish. The breakfast of champions, ramen. He decides to make enough for 3 so the girls couldn't ever say that he was selfish. Soon after he finishes making the ramen, does Lasana come out wearing a blue blouse as well as blue shorts. What's that strange smell? She asks as she walks into the room with her nose in the air, trying to figure out what's making the strange odor. Naruto looks back at her with a grin on his face. It's the greatest dish in the world, ramen. I decided to making some for us, he says as he sets a couple bowls on the table. She cocks her head as she stares at the dish. This doesn't look like it was made with fresh ingredients, she comments. Yeah, sorry about that, I'm actually a terrible cook. This is actually just instant ramen, I hope it's not a big deal, Naruto says as he scratches the back of his head. She shrugs. No, it's okay, I can't be too picky since you saved me and all. Lasana sits down and starts eating the ramen. Moments later, Ten comes back into the room with a hawk perched on her shoulder and a letter in her hand. Hey Naruto-kun, it seems the Kazekage sent you a message. She passes the letter across the table after she sits down. Naruto takes then letter and reads it. Upon completion, he bangs his head on the table. Damn it, he says to himself. His head pounding brings a puzzled look from both Ten and Lasana. He eventually stops and turns his head up to look at them. It seems as though just after we left the cage had another meeting. It seems like they decided that we need a couple more people to come with us. Apparently the Mist, Cloud and Sand have each chosen someone to go with us, but at least we don't have to head back for a while. Who have they chosen? Ten asks. Just what on earth is a cage? That's what I want to know. I mean, hello, mixed company. Lasana exclaims in annoyance about being the only one not knowing what's going on. The cage are the leaders of each separate major land in our country, Naruto quickly informs Lasana before turning back to Ten. Now Gaara didn't tell me who they were each sending, something about it being a surprise, but he asked if we could head back in a couple weeks to pick them up. Ten nods in understanding before proceeding to eat her ramen, but halfway through she stops and looks back up at Naruto. Naruto-kun, please tell me that we have more food than just instant ramen. Naruto freezes once again and doesn't reply. She sighs before finishing her bowl, then throws it at Naruto's head in anger. Damn it, Naruto, first you have us set sail without any maps and no idea where we're going. And now the only food we have is this damn instant ramen? Seriously, Naruto-kun, if you pull one more stupid stunt like this, then I'll start throwing kun at you, she states, with the final part being more of a promise. You guys don't know where you're going? Lasana asks in a worried tone. Both Naruto and Ten reluctantly nod. Lasana sighs as she rests her head on her hands. I guess I can repay you for saving me by helping you navigate for the time being. Naruto stands up and cheers in happiness. Sweet, you have no idea how amazing that is. It seems picking you up was a good thing, Ten tells Lasana in a teasing voice. So where's the closest town? If I recall, the closest town to here should be Orange Town to the southwest. It should only take about a day or so to reach it, Lasana informs them. Well, let's get going, Naruto says as he heads out the door. Both Ten and Lasana just sit there and watch him. Lasana breaks the short silence. Is he always like this? She asks and gets a nod from Ten. Unfortunately he is. Well, we better head out there. The two women make their way to the deck. By dawn the next day, Ten finally manages to see the outline of an island in the horizon. She leans over the edge of the crow's nest to call down to Lasana, who was currently steering the ship. Hey Lasana-chan, I see an island, off to the starboard side. Lasana looks up as she adjusts the direction the ship's heading. Thanks 1010-chan. Hopefully there's someplace where you guys can buy charts, maps, and other navigational equipment you will need for your voyage, as well as actual food and not this weird ramen stuff, she calls up. With a quick giggle 1010 then responds, "We might as well. Also, do you mind showing us just what we need to buy?" The brunette below smiles. "I guess I can help you with that at least." 1010 then notices that someone seems to be missing. Lasana-chan, do you happen to know where Naruto-kun is?" "Last I checked he was in his room. He said something about getting inspiration and had to do some writing." Lasana says with a curious look on her face as she resumes looking straight ahead. "I wonder what he's writing about." "Writing inspiration," comes a faint voice causing Lasana to look back up in wonder. "Is something wrong?" Lasana asks as she notices that 1010's face is now beet red. "That bastard, he better not be doing what I think he is." 1010 exclaims as she leaps back down to the deck of the ship causing Lasana to jump in surprise. 1010 opens the door and makes her way deeper into the ship, stomping all the way. "I wonder what she's embarrassed about," Lasana says with a shrug. Moments later, a loud crashing noise causes Lasana to jump once more in surprise. The distinct noise of 1010 screaming in fury echoes throughout the ship. "You bastard, I warned you what would happen if you did one more stupid thing, Naruto Kaiuen." "But 1010-chan, I haven't done anything wrong, I didn't even write your name." "Ouch, hey, don't throw those ATME. Suddenly, an orange blur appears out on deck, races up the steps and hides behind Lasana. "Hey, what are you doing, Naruto-san? Watch what you're grabbing." 1010 then appears in front of them with a handful of kunai knives in one hand and several shuriken in the other. "Naruto, how dare you use her as a shield? Just come out and take your punishment like a man." She screams at Naruto, who is currently crouching behind Lasana with his hands on her hips. "Come on 1010-chan. Like I said, I didn't put your name in the book, and you know I have to preserve my master's legacy," Naruto says as he peeks around Lasana's figure trying to make the best case he can. When looking into 1010's eyes, there appears to be a flames coming forth from them. "I know you have to preserve Jirgia's legacy, but not with damn aerobooks. Now listen carefully, Lasana, don't move a muscle. I cannot guarantee not to hit you if you don't heed my warning." As 1010 says this, she crosses her arms as she prepares to throw her weapons at Naruto, who is still behind the innocent Lasana. 1010-chan, please tell me you're not serious," Lasana asks with a worried look on her face, but notices the muscles in 1010's arms are tensed up, signifying that she's preparing to hurl her deadly weapons. "Ah!" she screams as the knives are thrown. All Naruto and 1010 see is a black blur shoot from Lasana's position, towards the mast and all the way up towards the crow's nest. The pair pause as they wonder where she went, but not wanting to waste the opportunity of an exposed Naruto, 1010 quickly unleashes her barrage of weapons at him. In his moment of confusion, he only manages to dodge several of them before a couple manage to pierce his arms, which he used to shield himself. Once the barrage ends with Naruto sitting on his ass and trying to pull out the few kunai that managed to pierce into him. "Damn 1010-chan, I know I heal fast, but still that doesn't mean the pain is diminished." His gaze then drifts to the crow's nest. "Also, just what the hell was that blur?" 1010 shrugs as she picks up her leftover weapons and seals them away. "No idea, I guess we should check it out." The pair slowly walk up the mast to find a surprising sight curled up in a little black ball. "Is that you, Lasana?" they both asked at the same time. The ball stirs a little before it unfurls itself to be a young lady that looks a lot like Lasana. That is if Lasana had short black fur covering her entire body, except for her chest and stomach, which had a lighter color little black cat ears perched on her head, as well as a long black tail sticking out of her shorts. On her face there seemed to be long whiskers. The figure suddenly leaps up and proceeds to scratch 6 cross-shaped lines across both Naruto and 1010's faces before landing on the opposite side of the crow's nest in a crouching position. "Just what the hell was that for?" the pair yell as they cover their faces in pain. "You know damn well what that was for, JRKS. And Naruto-san, just why the hell would you use me as a shield? And TNT-chan, how dare you throw those knife things at me?" the cat girl yells out before a long drawn-out and threatening hiss. Naruto finally moves his hands away from his face so he can get a better look at Lasana and is quite surprised to say the least. After a short pause, he points at her. "Wow, you're an actual cat girl," he states with an incredible look on his face. Lasana's sweat drops as she stares at Naruto. At that moment, 1010 finally removes her hands from her face. "Naruto-kun, what are you going on, Abu?" she starts to sob before getting a good look at Lasana's form. "Whoa, you were right, Naruto-kun, she is a cat girl." After short pause, the two suddenly wonder just why she has that form. 1010 is the first to speak up. "Okay, stupid question, but how are you a cat girl, Lasana?" Lasana lowers her head but keeps eye contact with Ten. You remember when you asked about devil fruit? The pair nods signifying they remember. Okay, and unless you're stupid, you must have figured out I ate one as well. The one I ate is a Zoan type. The cat fruit model panther. Naruto cocks his head to the side in confusion. What's a Zoan type? Before Lasana can reply, Ten raises a hand. Why don't we resume this conversation inside the ship? I'd actually like to treat this wound as soon as I can, she says as she points at the scratches across her face. Everyone else nods in agreement. Naruto and Ten choose to just jump straight down to the deck of the ship. Lasana, on the other hand, chooses to jump from separate parts of the ship to make her way down. The three then make their way back into the kitchen. By the time they're all seated with Lasana insisting on sitting across from them. Okay, there are 3 different types of devil's fruit. One Logia, which can turn a person into an element such as fire but also allows them to control that specific element. 2 Paramecia, which mostly just give the person superhuman physical abilities or powers. There's too many different types of this to go into much detail. And finally, the type I have, 3 Zoan. This kind can turn a person into an animal, like in my case, a panther. For Zoans, we have 3 forms. Our original human form, our animal form, and a hybrid form, which is what I'm currently in. She explains as slowly as possible so that she wouldn't have to repeat herself. Ten nods in understanding. However, it looks like Naruto was still a little confused but luckily managed to get the gist of what she meant. These devil fruit seem quite interesting, Naruto says with obvious interest. Oh, that reminds me. Is the reason that after I pulled you out of the water the other day you were quick to climb onto my head and shoulders? Is that because you're literally a cat, since they seem to hate water? Lasana growls a little at the comment but still nods. Yeah. Thought so, Naruto states before he bursts out laughing. Ten rolls her eyes at Naruto then smiles at Lasana in a friendly manner. But after a short while of this, Lasana slams her hand on the table. Okay, seriously, what the hell? She asks in an angry tone. What's the matter, Lasana-chan? Ten asks. Did we do something wrong? Yes, something's the matter. Why the hell aren't you guys freaked out by this? Just about everyone else I've met were freaked out and some even tried to attack me. All just because I'm different, she states as her voice takes on a deeper sadness. When she says this, Ten's gaze drifts over to Naruto, who completely stops laughing and looks at Lasana with understanding. She notices this and is quite confused by their reactions. What's with those looks? I can understand if you think I'm a freak, and once we reach the island I have no problem leaving you guys alone. I never wanted this. I never wanted to be a monster, she gasps for breath after her short rant. Lasana then stands up and makes her way for the door, only to be stopped when a pair of arms envelope her. You're not alone, Lasana-chan, and you're not a monster either, Naruto says in a low voice. Lasana just stands there and begins to shake as tears start running down her face. She then breaks out of Naruto's grip and races outside. Lasana-chan. Ten walks up to Naruto and places a hand on his shoulder to try and reassure him. Naruto-kun, it's okay, let me talk to her. And don't worry, I won't say anything about Kurama. I'll leave that talk to you when the time comes. Naruto nods in understanding and watches as she walks out of the room to follow after Lasana. Ten-chan, thanks, I'm going back to my room for a bit. Let me know when we get there or if you need any help, Naruto quietly says. Ten pauses at the door just long enough to give him a quick nod and a glare that promised pain if he continued his writing before leaving the room. Back on deck, Ten walks out and begins looking for the elusive cat girl. After spending a few minutes looking around, she eventually finds Lasana sitting back in the crow's nest with her arms wrapped around her legs as she cries. With slow and careful movements, Ten slowly sits down beside Lasana and gently rubs her back with one hand. After a minute or so, Lasana eventually leans over and rests her head on Ten's shoulder. Why do you guys act as if you care? She says in between sobs. I don't know how other people have treated you, and I can't say I've ever known the feeling of being hated for no reason. Although Naruto-kun does, he knows it better than anyone, Ten says as she wraps her arm around Lasana and pulls her in closer. How so? It's because back in our hometown, our village, for a reason he never knew, he was hated and despised just for being alive, ever since the day he was born, Ten quietly explains. Hearing that, Lasana pulls away a little and looks into Ten's eyes in an attempt to see if she's telling the truth. How can that be? How can people hate someone ever since the day of their birth? Sadly, that's not for me to say. You'll have to ask Naruto-kun the details about that, but trust me, he's suffered many hardships over the years, yet I've hardly ever seen him cry about it, Ten says as she looks at Lasana. Also, you don't have to tell us your past if you don't want to. We can wait till you feel comfortable with telling us. There's no rush. Lasana looks down at her knees again as she thinks about what Ten just told her. So, you're telling me he understands my pain? Yes, and if he get his way, he will probably try to take on your pain as well as shouldering his own. It's an unfortunate habit he picked up during the last war. Lasana's ears perk up in wonder at the mention of war. Wars? What war? Tenten shakes her head. It's a war that happened back in our country a few years back. By the end of it, Naruto-kun was considered a hero to everyone across the nation. With that being said, Tenten helps Lasana stand up and uses a cloth to dry her tears. There you go, now let's go back down and finish bringing the ship into port. She catgirl nods as she proceeds to make her way back down to the deck. Tenten quickly joins her. I'll be right back with Naruto-kun. You don't have to worry about treating him different. If possible, just act how you normally would, she says with quick smile before disappearing into the depths of the ship. So he was also treated like a monster. But unlike me, he suffered his entire life. I wonder why his parents didn't help him. Lasana thinks to herself as she makes her way to the helm to resume steering the ship. A minute or so later, both Naruto and Tenten come back onto the deck and take up various positions around the ship. Tenten turns to Naruto with a grin. Well, Captain, why don't you show Lasana your special skill? Good idea, Tenten-chan. It'll help us travel faster as well, Naruto says as he grins first at Tenten then to Lasana. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. 24 exact clones on Naruto appear in different locations of the deck, causing Lasana's jaw to drop in disbelief. What the hell? The original Naruto stands at the center of the deck and makes an announcement to his clones. Okay, everyone, now listen up. I want you all to listen to whatever Lasana-chan has to say since she's the expert when it comes to sailing the seas. With that being said, every single clone salutes the original as well as Lasana and say, "Got it, boss." Tenten looks down from the crow's nest and smiles. This should be an interesting trip, especially if Lasana-chan chooses to stay with us. Honestly, I really hope she does. At their current pace, Naruto and company quickly make it to the port known as Orange Town. Once the ship pulls up to the dock and Naruto jumps off the ship to secure it beside a pair of much smaller vessels. As soon as that's done, Naruto turns around and takes a moment to enjoy the view of the town before him, breathing a sigh of relief as well as a quick stretch as he thinks to himself, "Ah, I missed this feeling, the feeling of being on solid ground again." In no time at all, Tenten jumps down from the deck to join him. Lasana, on the other hand, who was currently in her human form, insisted on using the rope ladder. Tenten turns to Lasana. "So do you know where we can buy that equipment here, Lasana-chan?" The dark-haired woman looks around a little. "I've only been here once or twice before, but I think I remember. But don't you think something seems a little off about the town? Now that you mention it, it seems quiet, almost too quiet," Tenten says as she begins to survey their surroundings. Suddenly, the explosive sound of a cannon firing fills the air. A pair of shinobi immediately react to the sound as Tenten races to the top of a nearby building and hiding behind a chimney to try and locate the cannon. Naruto, on the other hand, took a moment to push Lasana behind some crates to hit her before he leaps atop the fox figurehead of the ship. Naruto was just in time to see a red cannonball shooting directly towards his ship. And without a moment to spare, he quickly takes out a pair of his Hurashin kunai and hurls one to the side of the ship, then holds the other directly in front of him in the cannonball's path. To Naruto, whom was still in the line of fire, time almost appeared to slow down as the explosive ball makes its way towards his outstretched hands. A moment before the ball makes impact, it suddenly disappears and instantly reappears at the other kunai's location, which regretfully was just in front of the two smaller vessels that were situated beside his ship. The red ball crashes into the smaller vessels and instantly explodes, causing them to break into thousands of tiny pieces, and it ultimately sinks. Naruto's gave drifts to the pair of destroyed vessels. That was a close one, damn it, I could have thrown the kunai further away if I had even a moment longer. Well, I just hope that the owners of those ships will forgive me, if I ever meet them, that is. He then leaps back off the ship and goes to help a confused and rattled Lasana up. "You alright, Lasana-chan?" Naruto asks her as he places a hand on her shoulder in a comforting manner. She looks at him in wonder on account of the fact she saw just what he did. "How did you do that?" she quietly asks him. He grins at her. "It's because I'm a shinobi, didn't I tell you that already?" he says with a quick wink. Naruto then turns to Tenten's location. "Hey Tenten-chan, I'm going to find out who attacked us, so can you keep an eye on the ship as well as protect Lasana-chan?" He waits for her to give him a signal that she will. Once he sees her giving said signal, he quickly turns to Lasana. "I'll be back soon." With that being said, he races off in the direction of the shooter. Using the skills he acquired as a shinobi, he makes good time racing through the town until he reaches a large building with a cannon partially hanging over the edge. This must be the place. I wonder what asshole shot at me. Well, one way or another, he is going to regret that. He then prepares to leap onto the roof of the building, but is stopped when he hears the angry battle cry of an old man carrying a spear of all things. He turns his head in confusion, wondering just what the old man wearing what would appear to be makeshift armor is doing here. Buggy the Clown, come out. The old man screams out as he waves his spear around from his front to his side. As Naruto was staring in confusion to the strange old man, he almost fails to notice another man on the rooftop wearing makeup and had a big red nose. Naruto's jaw almost drops from the ridiculous look of the man on the rooftop. Just, what the hell is that? He thinks to himself before he shakes his head in an attempt to regain his previous train of thought. The old man resumes his rant. I'm this village's leader, Chief Boodle, come down here and fight me. He clenches his spear in anger as more men walk into sight on the rooftop. Every one of them were laughing at him. The man with the big red nose called Buggy went to the edge of the rooftop and cracked an evil grin at the man. Do you even know who I am, villager? I'm the great pirate Buggy the Clown, so unless you want to die flashily, then get the hell out of here. I was trying to enjoy myself by blowing up crap in this town, as well as the port before you interrupted my fun. How dare you? This town is. The old man starts to say before a blonde-haired man in a long red coat steps in front of him. Naruto points a finger at Buggy. Hey, just what's your problem, big nose? That was my ship you shot at, you bastard, and I intend to make you pay for that. Several tick marks cover Buggy's forehead as soon as he hears that comment. Just who are you calling big nose, you blonde whisker-faced freak? Now it was Naruto's turn to have a tick form on his forehead. Hey, nobody insults my whisker marks, you bastard. As Naruto and Buggy exchange a barrage of insults, a trio consisting of an orange-haired young lady, a swordsman with green hair, and a dark-haired boy wearing a straw hat walk into view. The straw hat-wearing boy walks forward towards the old man. Hey, Oji-san, there you are. He then notices Naruto standing there yelling at Buggy. Huh, hey, who's that? Do you guys know him? The sound of the new arrivals make both Naruto and Buggy temporarily forget about one another long enough to take a look at them. The village elder takes the moment of silence to resume his rant. Like I was saying, you clown bastard, the town is my treasure and I won't let the likes of you to destroy it. He then hurls the spear in Buggy direction. However, he wasn't strong enough to it, only makes his part way up the building. The clown look at the spear embedded in the building quite a ways below his location. He then proceeds to point and laugh at the man. You're so pathetic, old man. I'm going to be the man who's going to get his hands on everything that glitters in this world. This town is just an eyesore and deserves to be destroyed. He gives a thumbs down sign as his men prepare another one of those strange red cannonballs and prepare to shoot it at the old man. Buggy sneers at him again as he gives his men an order. Shoot the old fart. The men then proceed to light it. Moments later, the cannon fires, but just as Naruto prepares to redirect this cannonball, the kid in the straw hat jumps in the way. He then proceeds to take in a deep breath and his body expands into the shape of an oversized balloon. Gum gum. Balloon, the boy yells out just before the ball comes in contact with his body and is quickly shot back. The cannonball strikes the roof of the building just under Buggy's feet and detonates, causing the clown and his entire crew to get propelled into the air where they eventually fall back to the earth. Hard. Naruto sweat drops as he stares in disbelief at the kid. Just who are you and what the hell was that you just did? Naruto finally manages to ask. The kid looks at him and moves his hand to his mouth, then he stretches his mouth out. I'm a rubber man because I ate the gum devil fruit. Okay, that just answered one question. Now who are you? I'm Monkey D. Luffy and I'm going to be king of the pirates. The lad called Luffy openly proclaims with the utmost confidence. Pirate King? I didn't know that pirates actually had a king, Naruto thinks to himself before turning to the pair that followed to boy. And you guys are? The orange-haired girl looks at him. I'm Nami. The green-haired man looks up as well, Roronoa Zaro. As the pair give their quick introductions, the old man decides to try taking a run at Buggy's down group. But just as he takes his first step, Luffy suddenly slams the old man's head into a wall, causing him to lose consciousness, much to everyone's surprise. Nami takes a couple steps towards Luffy. What the hell was that for? Why did you do that to the old man? She loudly asks him. Luffy just looks at her. It's cause he would just get in the way and hurt himself. Naruto scratches the back of his head in slight confusion as to just what was going on. Okay, whatever, you guys take care of the old man, but that red-nosed bastard is mine. I have to pay him back for what he almost did to my ship, he says as he walks towards the rubble. Hearing the usual trigger, Buggy bursts out of the rubble and screams in anger at Naruto. Who are you calling big-nosed? Okay, this is seriously getting old, he thinks to himself as he reaches into his kunai holster. Okay, one question, pirate. Are you strong, or will my first real fight since leaving the elemental nations be with another weakling? Buggy mouth drops in disbelief. Elemental nations, you're from that place, he says in disbelief, but then wave his hand trying to dismiss the thought. No, you can't be from that legendary place. Few ever manage get anywhere near that godforsaken land. Huh, what do you mean by that, Buggy? Naruto asks in wonder but keeps his hand at his kunai holster. Are you some kind of moron, Blondie? Stories have said that there is a massive turtle with 3 tails that guards the coast and destroyed every ship that passes by. In fact, the only ship I've heard that managed to get anywhere near that place in the last dozen years was a damn marine vessel. Oh, you mean with some guys called Aokiji and Akinu? Yes, that's right, boy, Buggy starts to say but goes silent for several moments before leaping back in horror. What? Just how do you know that? Naruto tilts his head to the side in confusion, as he replies, that's cause I met them there. They came to try and convince my country to join up with something they call the world government. He then shrugs and continues, ignoring the looks of astonishment from everyone minus Luffy. But honestly, I figured I should go out to sea and find out more information on them before we make a decision. Buggy stands up straight and tries his best to think up a plan. But that's enough talk, I still owe you for attacking my ship. He then pulls out a Hurricane kunai and throws it in Buggy's direction. He then makes a few hand signs. Multi-Shadow Kunai Jutsu. The Hurricane kunai that Naruto just threw suddenly multiplies and embeds itself in the rubble surrounding Buggy. Buggy separates into multiple pieces in an effort to dodge the few that get too close. He then starts laughing. Wow, your aim is horrible. Not even one of these strange knives managed to even nick me. If this is the skill level of someone from the elemental nations, then I should make that place my next target. A grin is plastered across Naruto's face. They weren't meant to hit you, Buggy. Their purpose is to ensure you have no escape. Everyone looks on in doubt because every single one of the kunai were embedded in the rubble. Anyone would have an easy time of moving past them, or so they thought. With a quick smile, Naruto suddenly vanishes in a flash of yellow light and instantly appears directly behind Buggy. Sorry, but you're not getting off easy, big nose. Naruto says as he punches Buggy in the back and sends him flying forward, but Naruto once again appears beside him and strikes him again. He repeats the process for about 2 minutes and stops once Buggy has gained several shades of black and blue all over his body. Naruto comes to a stop standing just in front of Buggy's beaten and unconscious body. Well, I feel better now, he says as he brushes the dirt and blood off his hands. He looks over to Luffy's group. Nami and Zoro's jaws have dropped in complete and utter disbelief. Luffy, on the other hand, well, his eyes looked to be in the shape of stars and they were sparkling full force. Wow, that was amazing. You have to join my crew, he happily says to Naruto. No thanks. Now if you excuse me, I have to find some charts for my upcoming journey. Naruto turns around and starts walking back to the port. At his current leisurely pace, it only takes Naruto a couple minutes to make his way back to his ship. He stops just in front of the ship. All right, 10-10-chan, everything's fine. I already took care of the guy who shot at us. Once the words leave his mouth, 10-10 quickly appears at his side. That's good, Naruto-kun. Then again, I'm sure we both knew that you'd have an easy time with it, she says with a smile. Yep, pretty damn easy, although I admit I am disappointed in how weak that pirate captain was. He looks around to find someone missing. Where's Lasana-chan? Over here, Naruto-san. Naruto looks in the direction of the voice to see Lasana in her catgirl form perched on a nearby rooftop looking down at him. Ah, there you are. So where did you take off to? Naruto asks. Lasana looks away as she blushes a little. I thought I should check some of the nearby stores for some charts. I took what we needed and left some money for them. Then I was kinda worried about you, so I kinda went off on my own to watch your fight, which was amazing, she quietly says. All right then, just as long as you're all right, so how about we get back on board? I think it's time to leave, Naruto says as he leaps back onto the ship. The group is quick to prepare for their departure. However, just as they're about to shove off, the trio from earlier come running down the street, all carrying a couple large bags, with a mob of people not too far behind them. What the hell, Luffy, why would you tell them that we're pirates? Now we have to hurry out of here before, she starts to say but comes to a complete stop at the docks. What the hell happened to MY ship? She yells out. Looks like it's destroyed. Hey Zoro, ours is gone too, Luffy exclaims. Nami frantically looks around in hopes of finding another vessel, but sadly doesn't see one. Except for the one large ship a short ways away with a blonde-haired man leaning against the railing watching them. She starts waving her hand as she races in his direction, still carrying her baggage. Hey Blondie, can you please help us get out of here? It seems like Buggy destroyed our ships. Naruto's sweat drops as he recalls that he was the one indirectly responsible for the destruction of their ships. Knowing he doesn't have much choice, he lowers his head in defeat. Fine, but only until the next island. A happy smile crosses her face as she reaches the ship. With a sigh of defeat, Naruto leaps down to the dock and reaches for her large bag, which she very hesitantly hands to him. With one hand on her bags, he then lifts her up and throws her over his shoulder so she was facing towards his back. Hang on, he says before leaping back up to the deck of the ship, causing her to scream in surprise and fright at his sudden action. Zoro quickly races up the rope ladder as Luffy shoots his way to the deck. "Wow, this ship's amazing," Luffy happily exclaims as he looks the ship over. "I have to admit it's a lot better than our previous one, plenty of legroom at least," Zoro says. "Well, you guys might as well find something to do, we're shoving off," Tenten says to them before racing up the mast to the crow's nest. "This is going to be a long but interesting journey," Naruto thinks as he looks at the group. Unlike before where the ship would mostly travel in silence, now it was the complete opposite. The brief moments of silence would be abruptly broken as Tenten chased Luffy out of the kitchen every hour or so since he was constantly stealing food. By now Tenten was fully aware that blunt attacks had no effect on Luffy. However, much to his dismay, Tenten was a weapons expert and had expert aim. Luffy spent every moment that wasn't spent eating or sleeping, just running for his very life as she was hurling kunai and shuriken at him constantly. "Damn it, Luffy-san, how many times do I have to chase you out of our kitchen?" she screamed as she dashed around the ship hurling her weapons at the pirate from practically every possible angle. How he managed to dodge so many just astounded Naruto and pissed off Tenten even more. "One more time, Luffy-san, one more time and I'll be setting traps that will be able to kill even you." Naruto stayed at the helm of the ship as he watched the pair dart back and forth. He turns towards the orange-haired girl Vixen. "Is he always like this?" he asks her. She just shrugs. "No idea, I just met him back there in Orange Town, but I certainly hope he isn't. It would be more than enough to drive a girl crazy." Naruto chuckles at her comment. "True, although in my experience crazy isn't always a bad thing, it does make things more interesting," he tells her, causing the girl to cock an eyebrow in wonder. Her lips form a small yet sly smile as she looks at Naruto. "So you telling me that you have experience with crazy girls?" You could say that again," Naruto says, "though there are times that I'm surprised that they haven't managed to kill me yet." He shudders as he says the last bit. Nami looks at him incuriously as she tries to figure out his meaning, but in the end she figures that it's not that important. "There was something else I was wondering about, Naruto-san. Earlier during your conversation with Buggy you said something about meeting a couple of Marine admirals. Was that true? And if so, for what reason did you meet them?" "Yeah, I did meet them. It was on the day where there was a yearly meeting of the Cage from the 5 strongest nations in our country. And before you ask, a Cage is what we call our village's leaders who just so happen to be the strongest shinobi in the land. Anyways, one of the admirals called Aokiji, I believe, asked where he could find the town hall so he could set up a meeting for inviting our country to ally itself with this world government. But we don't know anything about it, so I volunteered to go out to sea and get as much information about it as I can so we can make our decision on the matter." Nami nods her head in understanding. "So you're out here as a diplomat of sorts." Naruto's gaze drifts upwards for a moment as he thinks about it. "I guess you could say that, however I already had plans to head out to sea, this just gave me a better reason." Nami leans back against the railing closest to wheel to be more comfortable as she both listens to the strange but interesting man who was more than capable of disappearing and then reappearing in a flash of light. "And what was that reason?" she asks as she wonders why a man such as himself would leave his homeland. Naruto sighs as he turns to look her in the eye. "I know you're going to laugh about this, but it's to bring peace to the world." He watches as she cocks an eyebrow in wonder but continues. "My master wanted to bring peace to this world of ours, however he died long before that could be accomplished. He left that mission to me, and in the past few years since his death I managed to bring peace to our entire nation." Normally I would laugh at such a concept like bringing peace to the world, but when I look into your eyes I can almost feel like you could," Nami tells him as she retains eye contact between the two. By this point Lasana walks up the steps towards the pair. "I do agree with Nami-san, Naruto-san, so what do your parents have to say about this journey of yours?" she asks, since she has been thinking about it ever since her talk with Tenten. The smile leaves Naruto's face as he breaks eye contact with Nami and looks out at sea for a moment before he quietly replies, "I'm sure they would be proud, but sadly I can't ask them." Both Nami and Lasana wonder the same thing. Why can't he ask them? After a short pause he looks at the two of them. "I can't ask them because they both died the day I was born." Once he says this, Lasana covers her mouth in horror with both hands. Nami goes a little pale as she also covers her mouth but with only one hand. Lasana then cautiously walks over to Naruto but is unsure about how to reassure him. Naruto then gives them both a smile. "It's okay, I already came to terms with their deaths years ago, and even though my childhood was anything but pleasant, I know that they died protecting me, and you may not believe it, but I was eventually about to see them again when I was older, although it was only for a few moments." Naruto-san, that can't be possible. I mean, once you're dead, you're well, dead." Nami says as she looks at Naruto as she thinks about what she would give to see her mother Bellamere for even a moment. I know, but through a use of seals they were able to leave I guess you could almost call it a memory or impression of them. They let me know how proud they were of me and how much they believed in me, Naruto quietly explains. However, it's regrettable but there is a way to bring back the dead, but not in the way you're thinking. As Naruto says this, Zoro immediately wakes up from his nap and focuses on their conversation. What do you mean by that? He asks in an almost demanding voice. Through a forbidden technique called the impure world resurrection. It involves bringing back the souls of the dead and involves a human sacrifice. And when the person is revived, they are at the caster's mercy plus they have no control over their own actions. During the war in my homeland, this one guy called Kabuto used this technique to bring back many of the strongest warriors from the past and had them fight against their own children and loved ones. Naruto says as his hand clenches in anger on the wheel. His gaze drifts to Zoro. Picture this. You're stuck fighting against someone you either love or is very close to you, and no matter what you do their bodies just keep regenerating since they're immortal. Not fun at all. Now I'm sorry, but let's drops this subject. Naruto then turns back to the open sea. Zoro, Nami, and Lasana all look away as they realize how horrible such a thing would be. After a few more moments of silence, Lasana slowly walks behind Naruto and wraps her arms around him in a comforting manner. I'm so sorry, Naruto-san. I didn't mean to bring back such painful memories. Naruto looks back a little. I know. Besides, if I'm right, both Nami-san and you have also lost your parents. Nami flinches for a moment before looking into his eyes again. How does he know that? She wonders. Hey Naruto-kun, it looks like another messenger bird is coming. Tenten calls down to them. Huh? Oh thanks Tenten-chan, Naruto says before he carefully releases himself from Lasana and motions for Nami to take the wheel. He then walks over to the railing with an arm outstretched. The messenger hawk wastes no time in landing on the arm. Naruto removes the letter in the small canister on its leg and opens it up. After reading it, he turns in Tenten's direction. It seems those admirals have sent a message to the cage using those strange snails. Gaara is asking us to return as soon as possible so I can be included in their discussion. But I'm just going to use the Hurashin Jutsu and head back there myself, so do you mind being in charge while I'm gone, Tenten-chan? She then nods, of course, Naruto-kun. Thanks, Naruto says to her before turning to Lasana and Nami. Sorry, but I have to take off for a bit, but I shouldn't be gone too long. Maybe a couple hours to a day or so at the most. He then vanishes in a flash of light, leaving not a trace that he was even there. Both Lasana and Nami watch in surprise as Naruto vanishes, neither of them even close to being used to such a technique. I wonder if I should ask Naruto-san to help me to find my brother. Would he even be willing to? Lasana thinks to herself as she just stares at Naruto's previous location. The cage were currently sitting in a crescent-shaped table facing a large screen that a snail was projecting an image of a man with dark hair and a braided beard. Thank you for coming together like this. I know it was sudden, but I greatly appreciate your quick response to my earlier message, the man says. It's not a problem, Sengoku-san, but if this call is about what our decision is regarding the joining of your world government, I'm sorry, but we were still discussing it. Gaara addresses the man on screen. The man on screen nods in understanding. That's quite understandable, and I don't expect an immediate answer, especially with Admiral Akine's earlier rudeness. The man then looks in Shikamaru's direction. That looks to be an unusual weapon you have there. Shikamaru smiles at the fleet admiral as he twirls the trident-shaped kunai between his fingers. True, and the one who uses it is even more so. No sooner those words leave Shikamaru's lips does Naruto suddenly appear in a flash of light on top of him. With there being no stable ground, Naruto ends up crashing into the dark-haired shinobi, causing the two of them to crash into the ground. What the hell was on, Naruto? I should have known it was you. I can only assume you got our message, Shikamaru says as he glares at the blonde who was laying on top of him. Huh? Oh Shikamaru, sorry about that, Naruto says as he gets off of him, and the pair then proceed to stand up. I'll assume this is the owner of that unusual weapon, Sengoku says as he sweat drops at the sight. A small smile crosses Gaara's face as he turns away from the sight and resumes his gaze at the screen. Yes, this is its owner, the previous Hokage Naruto Uzumaki, he explains to Sengoku. The Raikage shakes his head at Naruto before looking at the screen. Yes, this kid is Naruto Uzumaki, the guy who went out to sea not too long ago. Yep, I sure am. I wanted to find out more about your world government to help our nation come to a faster decision, Naruto exclaims before noticing the screen. Oi, who's this guy? The rest of the cage sweat drop before Mei answers him. This man is Sengoku-san, the fleet admiral of the world government Naruto. Huh, is that so? He then gives a small and quick bow. Nice to meet you. Likewise, Naruto-san, so if I'm right in understanding this, you recently left your country, the elemental nations, to gather information about us. Is that right? Sengoku asks Naruto, who gives him a nod in reply. In that case, I would be willing to grant you the status of a diplomatic envoy, but in exchange, I'd like you to come here to Marine headquarters so we may meet in person. The Cage look from one to another and quietly discuss what that would mean. Gaara ended up being the one to reply. May I ask what the status of diplomatic envoy would do for Naruto? Sengoku nods. It's actually quite simple. It just means that he would have what we call diplomatic immunity, so he can go wherever he pleases and not be halted by my fellow Marines. However, I do ask that you don't abuse this power since it's rarely ever given out. Diplomatic immunity, huh? That does sound interesting. Just so we're clear, all you're asking of me in exchange is to just go to your headquarters for a meeting, Naruto says and is replied with a nod. That does sound good, and don't worry, I don't intend to abuse it. Sengoku smiles at how well the conversation was currently going. That's a relief to hear, so if you like I can send out a couple of ships to escort you here. Naruto holds up a hand asking him to temporarily stop speaking. No, that's fine. I'd actually like to make my own way there so I can see more of the world. A look of surprise crosses Sengoku's face as he listens to Naruto's comment. Are you sure about that, Uzumaki-san? On your own, it wouldn't be an easy journey. It would take you a great deal longer to arrive since Marine HQ is located at the end of the first half of the Grand Line. Naruto just shrugs, I don't mind actually. After a brief sigh, Sengoku nods. Alright, if that's your decision, just know that the Grand Line is the most exceptionally dangerous sea in the world. Glad to hear it, I could use a good workout, Naruto says with a grin plastered across his face. I can see that I won't change your mind. In that case, I'll just send a message to Captain Smoker in Logtown. When you get a chance, please meet up with him, and he can give you more information on the Grand Line as well as some of the special tools you need to navigate those seas. Sengoku informs Naruto. Okay, Logtown Captain Smoker, equipment, got it. I hope you have a safe journey, and I hope to see you soon, Uzumaki-san. Sengoku says before bidding farewell to Naruto and the rest of the cage, then the snail stops projecting the man's image and promptly falls asleep. Naruto turns to the cage with a smile. Well, that went well, I guess it's time to get back to my ship. Just as Naruto is about to return, he feels something lightly gripping onto his arm. He looks down to see his arm covered in sand. Naruto, your new crewmates only need another day or so to finish their preparations, so why don't you wait for them, Gaara says. Then he leans forward and whispers something else. Why don't I treat you to some ramen? We asked an expert from Kano Hagakure to supply food for this meeting. Naruto's eyes go wide and sparkle as he realizes just who Gaara meant. Damn right, let's go share a couple dozen bowls of the greatest food on earth, he says as he wraps an arm around Gaara's shoulder and the pair head out to procure said delicacy. A couple days go by as Naruto awaits the arrival of his new crew members. After some time goes by, he heads out to track down Gaara to see if he knew anything about when they would be arriving. It takes Naruto about an hour or so to track the Kazekage down. Hey Gaara, I was wondering, do you have any idea when they're supposed to arrive? It's been a couple days and honestly I'm getting a little worried about Ten-Ten-chan and Lasana-chan back on the ship. Naruto asks his friend. Gaara looks at him silently for a moment before replying. We're still waiting on the representative from Kumigakure, but the other two are already here in town, so if you wish you could just bring them back to your ship. I can either use that strange snail device to contact you, or just use one of your special kunai. Naruto closes his eyes for a few seconds while he thinks. Yeah, that would be fine. Sorry about the trouble, but like I said, I'm getting just a little worried. That's understandable, Naruto. Now anyways, why don't you just head back to the town center? I'll go and send the two over there to see you. Naruto smiles happily as he nods in understanding. Thanks, Gaara, I guess I'll see you later, he says before doing a quick hand sign and vanishes in a swirl of leaves. Within 2 hours, a pair of individuals open the door to the meeting room to find Naruto leaning back in his old chair fast asleep. The male wearing a Suna Hittite just shakes his head in slight annoyance as he raises a hand. And to think, this is supposed to be our captain. Let's see how he likes this wake-up call. The man then pulls his arm back, causing Naruto's chair to be pulled out from under him. Ah, what the hell? Naruto says as he falls flat on his ass. He then looks around to find the perpetrator. His gaze falls on the pair standing in the doorway along with their luggage. Were you the one who did that? Naruto says as he points a finger at the man from Suna who was grinning at him. Of course, and I wouldn't have had to if you weren't asleep, Naruto. Naruto grumbles to himself as he stands up and then proceeds to walk over to the pair. I guess, but don't do it again, he tells man who continues to grin at him. I make no promises, he slyly replies. Well anyways, are the two of you ready? Naruto asks and gets two quick nods. All right then. He then places his hands on their shoulders as they grab their baggage. Let's go. Once he finishes speaking, the group instantly disappears in a flash of light. Back at the ship, both Tenten and Lasana are currently surrounded by about 100 men. They're now trying to figure out how this pirate group managed to sneak up to the ship the previous night. This would be easy enough to handle if I didn't have to protect Lasana-chan as well as fight these bastards. Tenten thinks to herself as she keeps her eyes on the approaching pirates. She steadies a kunai in both hands to defend against any attacks. Come now girls, this doesn't have to get messy. You should just submit and I'm sure my men will be as gentle as possible. The captain of the opposing vessel says with a wicked grin as he holds his sword to the side. It's okay Lasana-chan, are you able to get up to the safety of the crow's nest? Tenten whispers to Lasana without looking away from the pirates. Lasana shakes her head. No, I'm sorry but I need to pick up enough speed before I can get up there. She quietly replies as she shivers in fright. Damn it Naruto-kun, just why the hell did you pick now of all times to be away? Tenten curses to herself. Suddenly, a loud crashing noise catches everyone's attention as well as a loud voice cursing. What the hell Naruto, why would you have us land on the damn table? Tenten cracks a small grin with the knowledge that their reinforcements have finally arrived. She takes a deep breath before calling out. Naruto-kun, get the hell out here, we have some uninvited guests that are giving us perverted looks. The pirates all take out their swords now armed with the knowledge that there are more people located below deck. Men, I order you to go in there and kill her friends and crew mates, their captain tells the men. About a dozen of them start making their way for the door. Uninvited guests, wow good show Naruto, we don't even have time to unpack before you guys put us to work, the voice from earlier says. Moments later, as the pirates near the door, a cloaked figure barrels out knocking several of the pirates onto their asses. The pirates that are still on their field look at the unarmed figure curiously as it looks to be raising both its arms in their direction. Suddenly, a torrent of flames shoot out from the outstretched hands and proceeds to scorch the enemy. Screams of pain fill the air as the flesh of the pirates begin to sear and melt from the intense scorching heat. The pirates that managed to escape the flames with only minor burns didn't get off any easier. As soon as they moved further away from the fire, someone else dashes out from below deck. The figure was wielding a very thin longsword and moved quickly through the remaining enemy ranks. The swordswoman comes to a stop on the opposite side of the pirates and gives a quick yank to a strand of thread attached to the end of the blade, which forcibly pulls the remaining pirates together in a clump. Now that the figure had come to stop, Tenten and Lasana finally get a good look at the swordswoman. She was wearing a sleeveless black shirt with matching pants complete with a waistguard, as well as the usual attire of Kirigakure's striped wrist and leg guards. Bandages were also wrapped around her neck, and there was a plain white mask covering her face with her long white hair billowing behind her. Whoa, that was amazing, thank you, Lasana says as she bows in gratitude to the white-haired swordswoman who just replies with a short nod before turning towards the pirate captain. So you must be the leader of these weaklings, she says as her hand tightens on her longsword. The pirate captain takes a step back towards his ship but comes to an abrupt halt as he feels a blade being held against his throat. His shaky gaze slowly drifts to a blond man wielding a kunai. I assume you're their captain, the pirate says with terror in his voice. You would be guessing right, now comes the problem of what to do with you. Naruto's stern gaze drifts to Tenten and Lasana. Since you girls seem to be what him and his men were after, I think you should be the ones to punish him. Naruto then hurls the man forward so he falls in between Naruto and the two. Kinda cruel of you to say that Naruto, someone says from within the ship. Everyone's gaze drifts to the door as a figure walks out wearing a black outfit consisting of a long top and pants with a red sash wrapped around his waist, and a black hood upon his head. Then again with what he seemed to have had planned for the ladies, it seems fitting. Tenten looks at the man in the dark-colored clothing with surprise. Kankuro, is that you? Ah Tenten, it seems like you remember me, that's good, Kankuro says with a laugh as he walks over to Lasana. And who might this be? Lasana fidgets a little as she looks at one of their rescuers. Lasana, my name's Lasana. Kankuro smiles then pats her on the shoulder. Nice to meet you. He then raises his hand and twitches a couple fingers. Immediately with that simple motion, the robed figure from earlier suddenly flies towards him and comes to an abrupt halt at his side. Lasana looks at the figure in wonder. And who's that? She asks Kankuro. He cocks an eyebrow in slight confusion before he realizes that she doesn't know what it is. He lets out a laugh as he removes the figure's robe. Lasana jumps back in surprise as she looks at the figure's body. Just what is that? It's a puppet, Naruto says as he walks over. Kankuro here is one of the most talented puppet masters from Sunagakure. Lasana looks at Kankuro in wonder. I'll explain later, Naruto then adds. A sudden cry attracts everyone's attention back to the pirate captain who had kunai knives pinning his hands to the mast. Tenten was then slowly walking over to him with a kunai knife in her hand. Naruto looks at her eyes to the point on the man's body she was glaring at. Okami. Naruto quickly turns towards Lasana. I know I said you two can take care of him, but I really don't think you need to see this. Lasana moves Naruto for a moment to see what he meant by that. Her eyes go wide as she nods. Yeah, I think she's got this handled. Naruto then gently places his hands on her shoulders and lead her through the door that would bring them below deck. But just as the door was about to shut, a blood-curdling scream fills the air. As the sound of the scream enters Naruto's ears, his entire body shivers. I almost feel sorry for that poor bastard, he quietly says to himself. Neither Naruto or Lasana leave the safety of the ship until the screams become faint and then non-existent. Once the screaming stops, Naruto and Lasana finally head back onto the deck to find a pile of gold and other treasures in one stack and a pile of charts and other documents in the other. With an eyebrow raised in wonder, Naruto turns to the trio that had remained on deck. Okay, I'll bite. Just what's the deal with this stuff? He asks the trio. Kankuro shrugs his shoulders as he raises his arms to his side. Just some stuff I took from their ship. Since that pirate group doesn't seem to exist anymore, it seemed like a waste to just leave it. Good point, Kankuro, Naruto says as he smiles to his new comrade. Well, Naruto-kun, now that you and Lasana have returned to us, I think it's about time for everyone to give some introductions. Tenten says to Naruto. Naruto turns to Tenten with the smile still on his face. Good idea, Tenten-chan. In that case, we might as well state our jobs on the ship as well as what else we want to accomplish. He then turns back to Kankuro and points at him. All right, Kankuro, you're up first, Naruto says with a grin. Why the hell am I first? Fine then, I'm Kankuro from Sunagakure in the Elemental Nations. I'm a puppet master and I want to both further my skills as well as be able to bring back new techniques to bequeath to the next generation. As for this ship, I guess I'd have the easiest time controlling the ship, so, helmsman, I guess. He then points towards the masked swordswoman. You're next, and while you're at it, you might as well remove that mask. She shakes her head for a moment before removing her mask to reveal a pair of stunning green eyes and a flawless face. I'm Aurora, member of the new 7 Swordsmen of the Mist, current wielder of the Nuibari, the Sewing Needle Longsword. I lived in Kirigakure, on the ship, medic goal, improve my swordsmanship and medical skills, she says in a monotone. Aurora then points to Tenten. Next. Tenten points to herself. As most of you should know by now, I'm Tenten from Konohagakure in the Elemental Nations. I specialize in weapons, so as Naruto-kun mentioned to me earlier, I guess sharpshooter, she says with a small smile as she twirls her kunai in the air. As for a goal, how about to collect any and all rare and legendary weapons I can find? And like Naruto-kun, I hail from Konohagakure in the Elemental Nations. Tenten then points at the blonde. With a quick grin, Naruto bites his thumb and does a couple quick hand signs before placing his hand to the ground, causing a large puff of smoke to surround him. After the smoke clears, everyone finds Naruto posing while standing on a large green toad with dark blue stripes. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, ex-Hokage from Konohagakure. Currently, I'm a great and powerful sage who honed his skills on Mount Mayaboku. My job on this ship is captain. And my goal, which will one day happen, is to bring about peace to the world. Naruto calls out, causing everyone else to sweat drop, except of Lasana, who was amazed at what he just did. Tenten shakes her head as she mutters, "Idiot." Then her gaze drifts to the final member, the long dark-haired woman. Okay, Lasana-chan, you're up. Lasana looks around the group as she fidgets a little. Naruto walks over to her and puts an arm around her shoulder in a reassuring manner. Don't be nervous, Lasana-chan, we're all friends and comrades here, Naruto says as he gestures to the rest of the crew. She then nods as a faint blush covers her cheeks from the close contact. I'm Lasana from Hoga Island in the Grand Line. With her mentioning of the Grand Line, everyone but Naruto raise an eyebrow in wonder. She gives a small sigh before beginning a short explanation. The world has 4 major seas, the East Blue, which is the sea we're currently sailing in. There's also the North Blue, West Blue, and then the South Blue. There's a giant stretch of land that circles around the world called the Red Line that separates the East-South Seas from the Northwest Seas. In addition, there's one more sea that circles around the world. That sea is the most dangerous. It's called the Grand Lind. It's sandwiched between 2 smaller seas known as the Calm Belt. Those are seas in which no winds blow and is a sea king breeding ground. She explains and waits for everyone to nod in understanding, and is happy to see that Tenten was writing down everything she just mentioned about the world. Now back to the introduction. Well, I can be the navigator. As for a goal, she turns to Naruto, who smiles and nods for her to continue. She takes a deep breath before continuing. My goal is to find my older brother who was taken from me when we were very young. Okay, I have two questions, Lasana-chan. First, if it's so dangerous crossing the calm belt, then how did you end up here? Second, do you have any idea where your brother is? Cause knowing Naruto-kun, he'd be more than happy to help you find him. Tenten asks with a gentle tone. Lasana looks in wonder at Naruto. Yeah, no worries, Lasana-chan, we'd be more than happy to help, he says as he gives her shoulder a reassuring squeeze. Well, as for how I came to be in the East Blue, I kinda stowed away on a marine vessel many years ago and I haven't been able to find anyone other than pirates who wanted to go to the Grand Line. But as for my brother, I'm sorry but I have no idea. Her gaze drifts downward as her hands form into fists and then tighten. Even after all these years of searching, I'm still no closer to finding him. Lasana-chan, no tears now. I did agree to help you find your brother and that's a promise I intend to keep. I always keep my word, Naruto says. Lasana nods as she nuzzles her head against Naruto's close shoulder. Thanks, Naruto-kun, she quietly says, and Naruto cocks an eyebrow at the change in honorific used, but figured it was just a fluke and chose to disregard it. As she continues her nuzzling, she accidentally changes back to her cat-girl form, causing both Kankuro and Aurora to look at her in a mix of confusion and wonder. Okay, I can't be the only one wondering why she suddenly grew fur, cat ears, and, whoa, is that a real tail? Kankuro exclaims in wonder, causing Lasana to jump in surprise back onto Naruto's shoulders. This is going to seriously get some getting used to, Naruto says as he points to an embarrassed Lasana sitting on his back and shoulders. He then quietly adds, though, it's not too bad, I guess. With Lasana's improved hearing, her face turns a slightly darker pink. Tenten rolls her eyes before turning to Kankuro and Aurora. Naruto-kun, how about you and Lasana-chan bring this stuff that Kankuro pilfered from that ship into the hold? I'll tell him and Aurora about those weird devil fruit things. Then later on I'll tell you about what happened in the time since you left us. She says to Naruto, who forms a half-dozen clones to help him and Lasana, who was more than happy to not have to explain about her abilities, carry the treasure, charts and other documents back below deck. Sounds good, Tenten-chan, Naruto says as he heads off to put everything away. Okay, first off there's these things called devil fruit and they, Tenten begins to explain to the clueless pair. Somewhere in another part of the vast oceans of the world. The light from an open window crawls up, a dark-haired individual resting in a bed. Once the light reaches his face, he squirms in his sleep before he slowly opens his eye to take in his surroundings. Where am I? He says out loud as he tries to sit up. The sound of footsteps picks up as a young dark-haired woman wearing glasses with a sword at her side, walking alongside a purple-haired woman in a nurse's outfit, walks in. Oh, you're finally awake, the nurse exclaims in delight. She then turns to the other women wearing glasses. Do you mind keeping an eye on him while I get the doctor as well as some food for our patient? The nurse asks and gets a nod in return from the other. Once the nurse leaves the room, the woman in glasses sits down on a chair beside the bed. Good to see you're finally awake. So are you feeling any better? She kindly asks him. I don't know, but I think so, he says before looking at her with a curious glance. So who are you? He asks. The young lady points to herself. Me, I'm Tashigi and I'm a sergeant in the Marines, she tells him with a smile on her face. How about you, what's your name? The young man looks forwards, then his gaze drifts to his hands. I don't know, just who am I? Tashigi looks at him with a look of both surprise and sadness before her gaze drifts over to where the clothes he was previously wearing before being admitted to the hospital were sitting. She sees a strange design on the back of the shirt that looks like a red and white fan. I wonder what that symbol stands for, she thinks to herself as she sits in silence with the young man. By the time the sun begins to set and everyone on the crew is in the dining room sitting at the table eating their instant ramen, much to almost everyone's disgust except Naruto's. Naruto then turns to Tenten after he manages to wolf down several bowls. Tenten-chan, I think it's time for you to tell us what happened in my absence, he asks her. Tenten happily puts down her chopsticks and prepares to give her explanation. Well, Naruto-kun, as you should remember, we were coming up to another island just as you left, she says as she waits for Naruto to nod. What happened after you left went like this. Flashback. It seems those admirals have sent a message to the cage using those strange snails. Gaara is asking us to return as soon as possible so I can be included in their discussion. But I'm just going to use the Hurricane Jutsu and head back there myself, so do you mind being in charge while I'm gone, Tenten-chan? She then nods, of course, Naruto-kun. Thanks, Naruto says to her before turning to Lasana and Nami. Sorry, but I have to take off for a bit, but I shouldn't be gone too long. Maybe a couple hours to a day or so at the most. He then vanishes in a flash of light, leaving not a trace that he was even there. Both Lasana and Nami watch in surprise as Naruto vanishes, neither of them even close to being used to such a technique. Once Naruto was gone, Tenten calls out to Nami and Lasana. Hey navigators, how long till we reach the next island? She asks them. It shouldn't be more than an hour or so at this pace, Tenten-chan. Lasana replies after she and Nami quickly converse on the matter. The next couple hours seem to go by in a flash before they dock their ship in a cove. The group all get off the ship, then they hear a loud voice call out, Oi, who goes there? The group turn their gaze up the hill to see a young man with dark hair wearing brown overalls. The most noticeable feature about this guy was his exceptionally long nose. He points to the group as he asks a question. Just who are you people? Out of the entire group, it was Luffy who stepped forward and gazes up at the long-nosed man. We're pirates, he exclaims. P-parts you say? WL, don't you even dare think that you'll be able to take another step on this land, because my 8,000 followers will stop you, he yells out as his knees shake in obvious terror. The entire group sweat drops as they're all thinking the same thing. What a liar. However, much to their surprise, one of them seems to actually believe him. Whoa, 8,000, Luffy exclaims in amazement as his jaw drops. Nami then walks up to Luffy and cuffs the back of his head before turning to the long-nosed one. That's such an obvious lie, she says in a matter-of-fact sort of way. The man crouches down and rests his head between his hands. Ah, she saw through me, she must be a master interrogator. Tenten shakes her head in disbelief. I know children who can lie far better than you, she says, which causes every to look her way in wonder. In fact, it was one of the things we were taught in the academy. Just what kind of school would teach kids to actually lie? The long-nosed man asks with a curious look on his face. He continues to think about it and doesn't notice Tenten disappear in a small whirlwind of leaves and reappear directly behind him. Oh, that's not all we were taught, she says as she crouches down behind the unaware man. Tenten grins wickedly as she positions her head beside his and quietly whispers in his ear. We were taught the fine art of. The man freezes in place and begins to sweat bullets as he feels her hot breath beside his ear. Assassination. She finishes, causing the man to turn pure white before he faints and rolls down the hill, coming to a rest in front of the group. She then bursts out laughing as she watches the man's reaction. Oh God, I can't believe he fainted like that. The only thing that would make this funnier is if he... As Tenten was laughing at the top of the hill, Luffy took the time to go over to the unconscious man and after a moment jumps back as he covers his nose. Zoro looks at Luffy's uncomfortable reaction and decides to guess what happened. Tenten-san, I think he just shit himself. Tenten goes dead silent for a moment before she falls back, and the only thing that can be heard is an uncontrolled roar of laughter. Lasana covers her nose as she moves away from the downed man. Tenten-chan, that was really mean. Zoro shakes his head for a moment, trying to suppress a smirk before grabbing the man's suspender straps and hurls him into the ocean. Once the man hits the water, he manages to regain consciousness. He walks back onto the beach with his head lowered in shame. Okay, very funny. Everyone can stop laughing now, he says as the roar of Tenten's laughter refuses to die down. He slowly looks up a little to glance at the group before him. Okay, honestly, just who are you guys, and what is your reason for coming here? He says as he continues to blush in total and utter embarrassment. It's just as Luffy said, we're pirates. However, we only came here so we can get a ship, so relax, we have no interest in attacking the town, Zoro says as he tries to get a word in between Tenten's laughter. I'm Nami, Nami says before pointing to Luffy and Zoro. The one in the straw hat is Luffy and the green-haired one is Zoro. The young lady who's standing way over there now is Lasana, and well, you've already met Tenten. She informs him but starts to chuckle a little when she gets to Tenten's name. It's not funny, the long-nosed guy yells at Nami, who is now holding her sides as she laughs. Zoro turns to the man since he now has regained control and is no longer laughing. Anyways, just who are you? The guy points to himself. Me, why I'm the great Captain Usopp, he proclaims and is met by even more hysterical laughter from atop the hill. Stop laughing. Lasana shakes her head as she starts making her way up the hill. I'll go and try to get Tenten-chan to calm down. Then can you lead us to a restaurant in town, Usopp-san? Usopp nods as he continues to blush. Once Lasana finally manages to get Tenten's laughter under control, does Usopp lead the group into town so they can find a place to eat. The group ask him about where they could get a ship, and he ends up telling them all about a young woman called Kaya who lives in a mansion just outside of the town. But the entire time he was explaining about Kaya, and the town he constantly glared at Tenten until he finally had enough and had to ask her again. Usopp points a finger at Tenten in anger. Okay women, now you have to explain something to me. Just what the hell did you do back there? There's no way a simple school would teach you that, she demands her to answer. Nami and the others look at her curiously since it's something they have been curious about, both that and what Naruto seemed able to do. Tenten giggles for a moment before she makes herself calm down. I was serious, Long-Nose-san. Both myself and my captain Naruto-kun were in an academy since we were around 6 years old. The academy taught us to become shinobi and we didn't leave until we were about 12. At that time we went on easy missions which were more like chores. However, we did eventually get harder missions, such as infiltrations, assassinations, and others like them. Usopp's eyes go wide in surprise as he takes this in. Seriously. She nods. Yes, seriously. Also, most of us shinobi use different techniques and are capable of far different things. I can use a summoning technique to summon weapons like this. She then takes out a scroll and sets it on the table. She opens it and summons up a couple kunai knives to show them her ability. However, in battle, I can summon a lot more than this at a time, she adds. Nami cocks her head in confusion. Wait, is that's what you do? Then what about Naruto-san? What is he capable of? She asks with obvious interest. I'm not going too far into it because I'm respecting Naruto-kun's privacy. However, this one thing I will say. Years ago, before a huge war broke out in our homeland, Naruto-kun fought against an enemy who had enough power to instantly destroy our entire village as well as kill most of the inhabitants, she says as she moves her hand closer to her body as she shivers a little. The group goes dead silent as those words sink in. Nami then shakes her head in disbelief. There's no way that's possible. I mean, seriously. A single man attacked a village full of you overpowered shinobi and managed to beat every last one of you. And somehow that blonde-haired captain of yours somehow manages to beat him. There's no way that's posse, Nami says before one of those kunai blades was pressed against the flesh of her neck. Don't speak about things you have no clue about, Tenten says with a hint of malice in her voice as she stares into Nami's eyes. That man I mentioned, he went by the name Pain. The power he had would make you all shake in terror. That guy killed the man that Naruto-kun looked up to like a grandfather, someone he cared for more than anything. Tenten shakes in anger as she spits out every word. Her gaze drifts to the rest of the group before looking back to Nami who was sweating. Okay, I get it. I'm sorry, Nami slowly says with her hands raised. With her hand still shaking, Tenten looks back at the scroll and reseals the blade. I'm sorry for doing that, Tenten says as she tries her best to suppress her anger and sadness. Luffy looks at the two, happy to see that Tenten is calming down and has put her weapon away. So, what happened next? How did he beat that monster? He eagerly asks. Tenten looks away from Nami and looks at Luffy. Well, as strange as this sounds, after Naruto-kun found out about his master's death, he agreed to undertake an intensely dangerous and difficult training session to attain the powers of a sage. This is the weirdest part. He did this sage training in a place called Mount Mayaboku, and his masters there were toads. She then waits for that to sink in before continuing. Anyways, after he completed this training, he attained the strength needed to beat Pain after a long battle. A good time after the battle, I ended up asking him about what happened to Pain. He told me that the body he fought was just a puppet, and that he managed to find the real Pain. The one thing I just can't quite understand is why he chose to spare him. Now that's all I'm going to say on the matter. I've probably said way too much already. If you want to know more, just ask Naruto-kun. She tells them and refuses to say anything more on the matter. That would be amazing if it were true, Usopp starts to say before noticing the glare he was getting from Tenten. He then coughs a couple times before continuing. But I think it's high time I get going. I have a previous engagement to attend to. With that being said, Usopp gets up and walks off. End flashback. You told them about my battle with Pain, Naruto asks in disbelief. Tenten looks down as she fidgets a little. Yes, however I didn't reveal anything that's on a need-to-know basis, she quietly says, bringing a look of confusion from Lasana. What do you mean by a need-to-know basis, Tenten-chan? What are you guys hiding from me? Lasana asks as she looks from Naruto to Tenten. Kankuro points at Naruto, then to Tenten. So you guys haven't told her anything about Naruto being a Jinchuriki? He asks without thinking, causing the two just mentioned to give him dirty looks. Jinchuriki, what's that supposed to mean? Why are you guys hiding stuff from me? Lasana says before looking towards Aurora in sadness. I suppose you know too, don't you? Aurora doesn't say anything, all she does is give Lasana a small nod. Naruto looks at Lasana with a look of understanding on his face as she sees the hurt in her eyes. Trust me, Lasana-chan, the main reason these guys know is because of the war that went on. We're not trying to single you out. She looks up at him as she tilts her cat ears back, showing him a look of sadness but also full of adorableness. Does that mean you're going to tell me, Naruto-kun? Naruto does his best to resist the gaze. Sorry, but not at this time. But he then silences Lasana with a glare. Trust me, you're better off not knowing. Now Ten-Chan, can you please continue? Ten nods. Alright then Naruto-kun. I'll just skip forward to the next day when this group of pirates came to attack the town with a single goal, to kill Kaya-san. Resume previous flashback. A tall man wearing glasses had his arms around a pair of the pirates. He was wearing a strange pair of gloves which had a long blade attached to each finger. He had a single blade pressed against the throat of either pirate as he glares down the hillside at his decimated crew. With a wicked glare he proceeds to threaten the remaining pirates. You've got 5 minutes. If everything isn't sorted out by then I'll kill every last one of you with my own hands. The remaining pirates all scream out as they try to figure out just how the hell they will accomplish such a feat in a mere 5 minutes. Especially since the three sword-wielding green-haired man stood in their way and they knew they had no chance against him. The pair that had the blades to their throats roar in fury as they make their way towards Zoro. Zoro then holds 2 of his swords behind the one in his mouth. Tiger, hunt, Zoro calls out as he barrels past the pair and takes them both out in an instant. The man wearing the long coat at the base of the hill stares at the sight in awe before realizing that without that pair it would mean everything was practically up to him. He looks up at 2 women who had spent the entire fight just sitting on a branch and watching the skeptical. Uh-oh, looks like the little hypnotist is in trouble now, Ten calls down in a mocking tone. As the hypnotist clenches his teeth in fury, Nami takes the opportunity to run past him over towards Luffy, who for some reason had the stem post with a black cat figurehead on top of him as he slept. Oh, would you just wake up already, Luffy? She calls out as her foot makes contact with his head. The hypnotist holds up a chakram and hurls it towards Nami. She turns around in horror to see the blade spinning towards her, but just as it draws near it suddenly changes direction and misses her head by about a foot. Nami looks up the hill to see that Ten had a kunai in hand and a smile on her face. I know, I did say that we wouldn't help since you guys insisted you had it covered, but let's just say you owe me one. Ten says as she looks down at a relieved Nami and a now awake Luffy. Luffy looks up and waves in thanks to Ten before turning his attention to Nami, who is holding her bleeding shoulder. Ah, your shoulder's bleeding, Nami, Luffy says in surprise and concern. I'm fine, besides this is one fight we've got to win, especially since there's so much treasure on the line, Nami says as her other hand forms into a fist. Shishishi classic Nami, Luffy says with a quick laugh before looking up the hill. Hey, the evil butler is here. The mentioned butler with the bladed gloves was looking towards his wristwatch. Less than 3 minutes left, Django. Suddenly a voice coming somewhere behind the butler calls out, Klahadore, stop. The butler looks back. What a lovely surprise, Kaya-san, what brings you all the way out here? The few remaining pirates look to one another as they realize the same thing. The girl from the mansions. Isn't that the girl we're supposed to kill? This is good, all we have to do is kill her. Zoro glares back down the hill at the pirates, causing them to flinch and shut up. Apparently satisfied, Zoro returns his gaze towards the butler. The young lady looks towards Usopp, who had blood practically pouring from the back of his head. Oh Usopp, I'm so sorry, I didn't believe you, how can you ever forgive me? It's fine, Kaya-chan, you have to get out of here. Klahadore is actually the infamous pirate Captain Kuro and he plans to kill you. Usopp screams out, fearful for her safety. She turns back towards Kuro. If it's my fortune you want, then you can have it. Just please stop this already. She practically begs but stops as she sees his stern gaze. It's true that I intend to have your entire fortune. However, I also need the peace of mind that will come with your death, Kaya-san. Kuro says as he raises a bladed hand, but before he could do anything, he's suddenly knocked back. The fist that struck him is pulled back towards the one who stretched it out, the one known as Monkey D. Luffy. Luffy then begins to make his way up the hill. 3 children known as Pepper, Carrot, and Onion race out from under some cover and grab Kaya by the hand. They share a quick glance with Usopp, who yells for them to get her away to a safe location. The children race off with Kaya hot on their heels. Kuro then stands up and glares at the one who struck him. That attack smarted quite a bit, Straw Hat. You displayed an unusual ability. You must have the power of a devil fruit, he says to Luffy. Yep, sure did. I ate the gum fruit, so now I'm a rubber man, Luffy exclaims as he strikes a fighting pose. Django, I'll kill the rubber man. You go and deal with Kaya-san. Force her to write that will and then kill her, Kuro says with malice in his voice as he holds his hands out in front of him, forming a circle of blades. Django flinches at Kuro's words but immediately proceeds to race up the hill and off into the woods. The sound of someone whistling causes Usopp to look above him to find that Tenten and Lasana moved and were standing in the tree beside him. Since their real captain has entered the battle, I think it's about high time we lend a hand. That is, unless you don't want us to, she asks Usopp with a small grin. Please save Kaya-chan, I beg you, Usopp begs her. Tenten smiles as she jumps to her feet. Alright, I guess we can consider this a mission. So you'll owe me, now Zoro-san, you protect Nami-san while we save Kaya-san, she says and waits for Zoro to give an annoyed nod. She then leaps down and places Usopp on her back. Lasana-chan, let's get going, Tenten calls out as she dashes off in the direction of the fleeing children with Lasana going into her panther form and races after her at top speed just to catch up. Another user of the devil fruit. Perhaps I should make her into a pet, Kuro says before dodging one of Luffy's attacks. Kuro swings his hand blades at Luffy, who leans back and dodges the strike. Luffy puts all his weight on his hands as he pressing his feet together and springs his feet forward towards Kuro's head. Gum Gum Spear. The attack closes in on Kuro, but just as it looks like it's about to make contact, he suddenly vanishes and reappears a ways to the side. Luffy then swings his leg towards Kuro again. Gum Gum Whip, Kuro jumps up and easily. And then pistol. Captain Kuro once again dodges the strike and lands atop Luffy's fist. You bore me, child, he says before proceeding to run along Luffy's outstretched arm and kicks him in the face, sending Luffy flying into the cliffside. The pirates then begin to cheer and chant Kuro's name. Suddenly Kuro calls out in anger. Fools never call me by that name ever again. My entire plan is to do away with the name Captain Kuro. Then Kuro races towards Luffy and thrusts his hand forward as he plans on impaling him. Luffy does the one thing Kuro didn't expect. He lifts up a boulder and puts it in the blade's path. The blade is impaled within the boulder, and once that happens, Luffy twists it away, causing the blades on one of his hands to be broken. If you didn't want a reputation, then you have no right being a pirate, Luffy proclaims with certainty. And if you want to compare plans, then mine is much bigger. Once again, the pirates resume cheering and saying Kuro's name, much to his annoyance. I told you fools to shut up. I'll deal with you guys when I've finished off the Straw Hat Kid, Kuro says as he glares at his old crew. Then he adds, I never intended to let any of you live. I can't allow anyone to live who knows my true identity. He then lowers his hands and starts to sway his body form side to side. The pirates all scream in terror as they realize what their captain is doing. Luffy looks at them in confusion. Huh, what are you all going on about? He asks and gets his answer as he sees Kuro completely disappear from view. Luffy looks around in confusion until he sees the pirates being sliced open and even the cliff wall was getting slashed. What the hell's wrong with you? Aren't these guys your nakama? Luffy cries out. In the forest, Tenten races through the forest for a short while before catching up to Django. Heh, this is going to be too easy, she says as she takes out a couple kunai and shuriken. Tenten then hurls them forward and they strike the hypnotist in the legs, causing him to fall over in pain. Tenten dashes past him and sticks her tongue out at him playfully as she moves out of sight. He can hear her as she runs off. Oh, Lasana-chan, be a dear and keep an eye on him, all right. Django cocks an eyebrow in confusion as he attempts to stand up and is immediately forced back to the ground. He turns around. Hey, what's the big idea? He says, but then goes dead silent as he comes face to face with the panther form of Lasana growling at him. Grr, I'd stay down if I were you, she warns. The hypnotist nods in understanding and doesn't move a muscle. Within moments, Tenten leaps in front of the children who were still running away with Kaya. Hold on, you guys, you're all safe now, she says with a smile before turning to the side so they can see Usopp on her back. Oh, Usopp-kun, you're safe, Kaya happily exclaims. Tenten grins at the happy faces of the children. Don't worry about that hypnotist guy. By the sounds of it, Lasana-chan's got him taken care of, she says as the echo of a roaring beast reaches their ears. Are you sure about that? Kaya asks with a slight fearful tone in her voice. Yep, sure am, Tenten replies. Back at the cliffside. The fight between Luffy and Kuro dragged on for a while until Luffy finally managed to catch the quick-footed pirate. Luffy stretches his head all the way back down the hill before pulling it back and striking Kuro directly in the face. Gum Gum's bells. End flashback. And once the fight between Luffy-san and Kuro ended, the pirates ended up retreating. Soon after, Kaya-san gave Luffy-san and his group a ship with a sheep figurehead. Usopp-san ended up joining up with them. And well, that's pretty much all you missed in your absence, Naruto-kun, Tenten says as she breathes a sigh of relief since she was at last finished talking. I guess I missed out on some pretty sweet action, Naruto says as he strikes his head against the table in frustration. Lasana nods. Yeah, you did. I was happy to have been of some help, unlike you, she says as she sticks her tongue out at Naruto. Naruto looks back at Lasana. Acting like that won't make me any more willing to spill my secrets. He informs Lasana. He then gets up and walks towards the hall that leads to his room. Well, I need some sleep, so good night, you guys. Oh, and Kankuro and Aurora-san, just pick any room you guys want. We've got plenty to choose from. And with that being said, Naruto goes into his room and shuts the door. Chapter end. So this part ends here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so quickly like this video, and comment down below your thoughts about this series. Also share this story with your friends, and now it's time for me to go bye.